So, here's my stick. You can see poison on the stick over here, right? And I'm a huge Poison fan, obviously best because if and so on. And I bring it up because Poison is kind of like my best favorite story of how I outvoked the voked, as I like to call it, right? So, in this video, guys, we can talk about how to survive, how to maneuver, how to, get around the Vokis, so to speak, but also just generally crazy people in the IT industry. So in my last video, I went over and, this is all the issues, right, of the game industry, and explaining, like, why that attracts so many woke people. Or rather, I like to say it, I think it more explains why it's so woke, because it's inherently very, very left-leaning, right, in the game industry and the IT industry in general. Another point that I made, though, is of course that the game industry especially attracts a lot of just loons, right? I don't mean left loons, I mean right loons, I mean psychopaths, I mean narcissist people, people with different borderline disorders, I mean everyone, right? And the reason why, as I mentioned in the video, is mainly because of the whole misfit outcast thing, right? So for example, when I saw that I brought up this resume, as I said in the video, I mentioned how we had like this Pikachu hen resume thing, right? And I was like, I can't hire this person. This person is clearly unfit to work here or anywhere, basically. So I'm just gonna, throw away that resume, right? But my colleagues are like, nah, she's just an outcast. Let's hire her, right? So overall, the game industry, for those different factors, right, they pull in all these like crazy people and they just allow them to work there. So for example, if you're like a 10 out of 10 Google coder skill, Google will hire you. I mean, Google will take you in as long as you have like an insanely high degree of skill, right? And you might be like some really, really autistic spectrum person, but you can work there anyway. So there does of course exist people with autism and so on, or whatever, right, in the IT industry. It's a bit a common trope, right? But in the game industry, again, right, that is way, way more extreme because, let's say, at Google then, it's like 10 out of 10, maximum skill level, right? But in the game industry, maybe it's on like a 7 or 8, right? Basically, the quality of the person's actual skills are lower, right, to get in there. Which of course that means that you get more of these people that other companies won't hire, right? And if they didn't have the game industry, these guys probably would never get hired. They would have maybe as remote workers at best, right? So you get all of them, right? Of the different kind of let's call it spectrums into the game industry. And since I worked for many years, and as I said in the last video, with my behavior science degree and just generally a pretty good behavior scientist, if I say so myself, I have managed to, deal with this, right? I have managed to swim around this thing. I have managed to outvoke them, outsmart them, right? Do all kind of stuff to survive these people. So I'm gonna give you this video here then, tips and tricks how this works, how you can actually outsmart the voke in your work environment. And of course, everything I say here, it is still useful, I hope, but I mean, to some extent, of course, useful in your ordinary life. It is useful outside the IT and game industry, obviously it is, but I still will refer most to the game industry here, because that's obviously my personal most experience with, and it is a little different though, right? Because, for as I said last video, when you're making a game, right, it has to also be artistic. It has to kind of, it's hard to determine exactly how much money we make and all that stuff, right? So it is a different process working with crazy people doing artistic stuff as working with crazy people doing like delivery of a typical IT product. So for example, as I both in the IT industry and the gaming industry, right, these crazy loon people have just way less impact in IT companies as well. Not only because there are fewer of them, but just because it's like, well, we're making like a bank app, right? It's a system for a bank. This is how it works, like shut up and do what I want, what I mean? It's very, very clear what it wants to be, right? When a game, these people also get way more attention, basically, and way more, more to say, right? And more to argue with, because it's like no one can tell anyone exactly that this game will sell if I make this thing, you know what I mean? So it's much harder to tell them that shut up, you're wrong, kind of thing, right? But again, if you're making like a bank system, you're like, it's a bank system. You have transaction, you have this thing and so on. You just write the code for that and shut up. It's easier to kind of like, no, we're not going to go into this weird debate, right? So I think it's also a thing why these crazy loon people also are even more annoying, right, in the game industry. And also probably Hollywood or so forth in other entertainment industries. Because of course they have much more, leeway and power, right? And also, of course, they're harder to fire them, right? As I mentioned in the last video, because they get in so easily, in the sense of that, this, whatever, CEOs or whatever, I feel sorry for them, they're more outcasts and so forth, they're misfit and all that stuff, right? It also means that when they do mistakes, of course, when they do bad behavior or whatever, right, they also don't get fired as easily as if they worked in a normal industry. They would probably get fired quicker, right? So they have a lot more, how say it, get out of jail free cards, right, as well. And it leaves you as the normal person. I'm the normal guy here. I'm the normal, okay? The normal person, it leaves you with having to, again, then maneuver a lot, right? Because sometimes, for example, and we come to later, but sometimes, right, for example, I mentioned in the last video, this hysteric personality disorder person I had, right? With her, like, I know that I can get to HR, but she kind of gets, she's kind of, people kind of like her. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, this is a person I have to really out them. I have to really get them to fail hard before I go to human resource, because even if they are in the wrong, they, you know what I mean? It's like uphill battle because they are much more popular and it's a woman and so on, so they won't believe me. You have to really, really have to maneuver it correctly. You can't just, go to HR day one, right? You have to really expose them first. So you can also have that issue, right, where it's like, no, I know that I can't just go and report them because they actually will win that, so to speak. Right? I have to report them with 10 more reports, you know what I mean? Or I have to get all people to agree with me and report them and so forth. I have to, somehow coordinate it or whatever. Yeah, it gets very complicated sometimes. So usually it's better to be able to kind of if it's a wall, you go around it, you know what I mean? That's kind of what I mean, maneuver, right? But anyway, let me sip my power up monster. It's just supposed to be my now. They really is supposed to be my now, yeah. Let's start then with the Vogue. How do you actually maneuver the Vogue, right? And I'm gonna tell you a story first. No, but I'm telling you context matters, right? So context matters a lot. It really does. No, but let me first give you where I'm coming from. It's very important to understand this context here. So, I'm in Sweden, right? And I work for a game company in Sweden. This game company is owned by 4 people. They're all voting for the feminist initiative. This is the most left-leaning party in Sweden. And I know most people watching the video are Americans. So when I say left-leaning, I mean left-leaning. You can't even imagine. You can't even imagine how left-leaning this is in Sweden, okay? So first of all, right, every party in Sweden is more left-leaning than Democrats, okay? The most right-wing party in Sweden is still more left-leaning than Democrats. And of all these parties, the most left-leaning party is the party right there. And Sweden has a communist party, okay? The founder of the Communist Party, the founder, but the main leader and biggest celebrity and biggest name of this Communist Party, her name was Gudrun Schyman. Well, she's alive, but I mean, she was the leader of the Communist Party for many years. And she then abandoned the Communist Party. Look at this, Gudrun Schyman, this is crazy. So she's the leader again, right, of the most left-leaning Communist Party. Literal name is the Communist Party when she joins them. They call it the left party today, Vänsterpartiet. But it used to be called the Communist Party. The actual name was the Communist Party, okay? So the Communist Party leader, Schyman, she leaves this party and makes her own party called the Feminist Initiative, FI, because she finds the Communist Party not left enough, okay? So then you know that the FI party is crazy left, right? In this game company, all the 4 founders were proud members of that party. They will go to the party rallies, and the next day at office, it will be like pink balloons everywhere instead of FI. So seriously, yeah, they will have posters of Gudrun Schyman and so on at the office, and they would have rave parties and for that I was invited to, and I would actually meet Gudrun Schyman and other lot of this very, very left-leaning people, other hardcore communists so on in Sweden. So they're very communist. One of the owners was a part of Antifa or AFA then, 100%. He would never admit it, but he talked about how he would punch Nazis because it's fun and so on, and it was crazy. So this is extremely left-leaning, right? Extremely left-leaning. How they made any sense, but basically, you take what you imagine in America, right? And you take it 100 more times left, okay? It's so much more left-leaning. You can't even imagine, honestly. I feel I say it all the time, but the thing is that most of my viewers, right, are either in Japan and America, and you guys can't even fathom how far left these people are, right, you know. These people are like more left-leaning than Stalin, you know. They think that Stalin and Pol Pot are good guys too. It's kind of funny because the Communist Party in Sweden, right, in history, what they call the Communist Party, they will defend Pol Pot, you know. So in the 70s, when Pol Pot was controlling the, I guess it's called, what's it called in English? Red Khmer, we call it Röda Khmer in Swedish, yeah, the Khmers. Red of course, because they're, you know, Soviets, Allied and so on, Chinese, you know, because they're communists, and Khmer down in Cambodia. So when they were killing everyone in Cambodia, like literally, they were committing genocide, you know, they did a mass genocide. During this genocide, like exact same days, the Communist Party of Sweden would stand on the TV, on the newspapers, and talk about how communist is the right thing, and they would, and when every other party, you know, in Sweden, right, would say that, okay, those people are crazy over it, they're doing like genocide, so they're crazy. The Communist Party will defend them and say, no, it's the right thing to do, and so on. Or they would pretend that, no, but it has to be done, and so on. Yeah, it's, this is the party that had about 10 or so percent of the views, or so votes, I mean, votes in Sweden, yeah. And then after the Soviet Union's collapse, right, in the 90s, 89 of course with the wall, but in the 90s then, they changed their name from Communist Party to the Vänsterpartiet, Vänster means left. But most of them are just straight up real communist. And with Schymans party down, which I refer to this game company, it's very important because they're all, you know, big members of the party, right? That party was just a massive mistake, of course, for the left to do, right? Because what happened was that, like I said, right, she was the leader and like charismatic person of the Communist Party, right? Made a new party, and when it happened, she didn't get more votes, right? The only thing she did was that she removed some of the votes from the Communist Party to her new party, right? They just transferred the most far leftists, right, to her party instead, which meant that, of course, both parties had less voting power, because in Sweden you need to have 4% to have power in parliament, and her new party never reached over 4%. It was at most like 2% or so, 1.5-2%. So basically those 2%, right, were from her previous party. She just made her previous party weaker. So it was hilarious though, so very good strategy. But anyway, long story short, this is very important, right, because I work in this company now then, in Sweden, super communist, you know, left-leaning party, right, and these four guys are all, they're all men, they're all white men, of course, yeah. These four guys are all super into this party, and this is of course like 10 years ago, roughly speaking, right? It's like a decade ago. This is like kind of peak woke in Sweden, so to speak. You had peak woke later in America, right? Honestly, yes, you had peak woke later in America. This is kind of like peak woke in Sweden. This party is getting the votes, they're happy, so on, right? But they're actually stealing votes from their own party, so actually it's a massive mistake by them, it's hilarious. But anyway, I'm working there with these guys, right? So again, that's the context, important to understand. Now, of course, all my stories, whatever, all my examples won't be from this company, but most of my how to own the Vokes or whatever, how to maneuver the Vokes, so to speak, is from this company. Because that was basically every day, constantly, you had to constantly maneuver these four owners, incredible left-leaning ideas, right? And either prove them wrong or, you know, argue with them and so on. And there were other stuff too, for example, just to bring it up here, on this company, so you understand what I mean here. Meat was banned, right, of course. So you could have your own meat, right, you could make your own meat, but you couldn't, like, if you had a Christmas party, right, or a julbord, say Swedish then, or a summer party, right, midsummer party, something like that, right, the company would never buy any meat, right, everything had to be vegan and so on, yeah, so it was a lot of those stuff too as well, right. Where someone had their birthday, we always only got carrot cake, basically. You couldn't get, you had to be like a vegan cakes, and there's a lot of this stuff, seriously, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. You couldn't, of course, ban you to, like I said, bring your own meat to the office, but you weren't allowed to eat your meat in like you had to eat like your meat in your own office, something. And there was like all these rules, right? So they were very much actual crazy left-leaning PC ideas. And this is, again, I keep saying it, right? That's what Vogue really is, right? Vogue is a bad name because it used to be called PC, right? And that's what it actually is, right, you know. So they had their vegan game company, right? And in this company, and you weren't allowed to eat meat in like the lunch break room because that would offend the vegans, you know. The company would, yeah, so forth, only buy vegan birthday cakes and so on. Yeah, like, it was crazy, right? It was a political correctness, right? Forcing you. Because actually, this is so long ago now, of it all saying that this I worked here basically before we had the term woke, right? So when I was describing this company back in the days to my my parents or friends or whatever, I was like, oh, these people are crazy. Oh, you should see it, mom. These are, no, mom, they're really crazy. I wasn't like, oh, they're woke, mom. I was like, oh, they're PK. They're because PK and Swedish PC, right? Plus PK. So I was like, oh, they're PK. They're very PK, mom. They're so PK. Like, this is crazy, man. We can't have meat here, this thing and that thing. They don't buy color from the store. They're gonna repaint some wall. The wall has to be vegan or something. The wall has to be vegan. I mean, I'm not kidding, mom. They're PK. They're PC like crazy, right? Yeah, the political correctness is insane, right? And so forth, right? And of course, they would always talk about punching a Nazi or whatever, right? They would do a lot of daydreaming, yeah. They do a lot of daydreaming. But anyway, context matters here, of course, because how the hell do you then survive this thing, right? And how do you maneuver them, and so forth, right? And of course, as a side note, I mentioned that in my video 2 steps back, right? Where I discussed how toxic positivity and wokeness ruins companies. Right? This company went bankrupt, to no surprise there. So I'm not gonna say companies anyway because I don't wanna. But they all hate me. So yeah, don't worry, they all hate me anyway. These 4 guys all hate me. There's no problem with that. It's very blacklisted. We blacklisted each other. Yeah. He's like a double blacklist. I blacklisted on first, But it's like no, you are. I quit, kind of. No, but they of course bankrupted their own company. They bankrupted their own company, absolutely. And the reason why is because they were so woke, right? So I mentioned them 2 weeks back ago, right? But this is the same company. They refused to fire the guy that was like a predator and did all this crime and so on. Yeah, this guy that actually was a literal convicted felon and so on. And they wouldn't fire him because they felt so sorry for him and so on. And yeah, this is that company, right? So they lost so much money on crazy people like him and weird ideas, and they burned through $millions of dollars every year on this nonsense, right? For example, then terrible employees, but also other stuff too, right? So they went bankrupt when I was working there. That's the way I could not maneuver around. No, I could not maneuver around the CEO burning all the money for the company. That was impossible to maneuver around. But important to note though is that as I had my beef with the CEO, mostly about him never firing this crazy guy, I also kind of made fun of him over that because I was like, see, this is how it goes, man. You could have fired this terrible person 2 years ago, but now so they have to fire everyone, or fire, but they have to let everyone go because they have no money left anymore. Yeah, could have fixed it better, But anyway, long story short, but I will give you the complex matter shit I think a lot, right? And no one's gonna believe me. As a side note, but I worked at this company. There's so many crazy stories I have from that company. And I mean, I have other weird stories too, but that company, most of them are from this company, right? And there, so many of them are so effed up that when I told people that, you had to understand it, right? When I told my grandma something, this is happening in the company, she wouldn't believe if I told her actually what's happening. I had to tell her, like a less crazy version, because it was so crazy. I remember me and my coworker, which is office mate, a great guy. He was like, he laughed. I said it to him one day. I was like, I talked about grandma yesterday. She wouldn't believe me when I told her what the boss did. He was like, sit with my family. They won't believe me how crazy I was. They're so crazy here. Yeah, they're too crazy. Like people, yeah. But it's kind of like that. Like the lies are. It was like, it was so extreme that people would think they were lying. But anyway, so, pause the story. So with that. Because my trick, number 1, right, number uno, how to deal with the people, is the poison strategy, right? So poison here. Beloved, find a fight with character. So I call this strategy, outvoke the woke, right? And touch their phobia, right? So, what I did one day to piss off the CEO of the company, because he was always complaining about, hot waifus or whatever, so on, right? As he does, because he hates, Asian games and so on. So what I did was I bought a poster, right? Kind of like this with the Mario poster, but one with poison then, of course, find a fight, It's a very sexy character for find a fight and then Street Fighter, right? So I bought this giant poster of poison, put it in my office, like spread it out, super hot poison, right? The same day, of course, in the morning, he calls to me, the CEO. He's just like, "What's wrong with you? You can't have these posters blah blah blah, you know. And I'm like, oh, but Simon has a giant Mickey poster over there. Are we allowed to have poster? I have Spider-Man next to poster. He's just like, no, but you can't have like a hentai character, a sexual character. Oh, Asian, Japan. He hates Japan, so they always hate Japan, right? And I looked at his eye and I was like, but Poison is the first trans character. Are you transphobic? You're transphobic, aren't you? And then of course he was like, trans? I was like, yeah, it's Poison. She's the most famous trans character in video games. Did you know that? I thought you knew that because, I mean, he's like, of course I know that. Poison, of course, there's Poison. Yeah, of course, famous trans yes, of course, first trans character. Of course I know that. I was like, yeah, of course, Poison. You know, I think she's an amazing character. The first time playable trans character, right? I mean, he's like, yeah, that's right, yeah, of course. I was like, yeah, of course it stays, right? So these are true stories. I put up a super sexy Poison poster, 100% true. And he couldn't remove it because I was like, "You're transphobic, then, right?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm not transphobic." So you know what I mean? And this works, right? This works. This is what I call out woke the vocal, you know. So because woke people tend to be, you know, they're very PC. They want to control your behavior, right? Like we see in like more than a year, like the last year then, 24, right? They hated Stellar Rave, Eve is sexy, and Bayonetta and so on, right? But as we see now, they're trying to make Eve be cool now for woke because she's a feminine figure or something. But you know what I mean, right? So Poison is a perfect example because Poison, of course, is known as basically the video game's first trans character, right? There's been a little dispute about that. Is she futa? Is she that? Is she trans? Post-op? Whatever. If you punch her into the wall in the 5th shift of the game, it says gender unknown or whatever, right? But she's typically seen as, you know, a transsexual character, right? You know, doing, you know, boob job and so on, right? And usually a very sexually attractive character, right? But, you know, obviously this, you know, that creates like a woke loophole, right? Because if you have a very sexually hot trans character, right? Yeah, the woke guys are like, you know, it breaks the brain. Yeah, it breaks the brain. They can't handle that. They're like, whoa. Of course, some of them will say that, you know, it's a fetish, right? It's this trans chaser thing and all. Yeah, of course you say that, obviously. But it's still hard for them to be like, I have to remove that now, right? And then you end up having a Bridget figure from Guilty Gear or so. But seriously, right? I also have sample A2 on that figure. That, you know, over here is A2 sample. Also has a PP, right? You know, this is there. There's A2 there, which is from Nier. And A2 is actually the first probably playable actually main like protagonist character. Poison, after all, isn't the protagonist. She's a playable character, but she's not the main character. Nor is, I guess, A2 either. What A2 and Kane, but well, I mean, arguably A2 is like a protagonist. But whatever, I digress. But you get my point, right? So yeah, this is what I mean. This is what I mean. Out what the Volk, right? You take something that is like super progressive, but at the same time, it's super annoying for them. Like again, a sexy trans character, right? Which they have a very hard time to deal with, right? But it can be other things too, you know. It can be progressive other characters. It can be, you know, like a black character or whatever, yeah. And this works particularly well then again in the game industry, right? Because everyone wants to be, you know, progressive, but also that they want to, you know, have this nerd meter, right? So they want to be like nerd power high. So they want to say that, oh, I know everything about games or whatever. So if you're like, oh, everyone knows that Poison is the first playable trans character, right? He's like, I knew that. Yeah, of course you knew that. Because you were also a nerd, right? And you're progressive, right? Yes. You know, those kind of words works really well, right? Because here's the one I admit. He probably have no idea, of course, right? That what Poison is, or who Bridget is, or who Kane is, or whatever, right? In need and so on, etc. He probably has zero clue, right? Of course. And it is an interesting thing as a cultural difference here, right? Is that this guy, like I said, and this is last video too, they hate Japan, right? They hate China and Korea and so on. They're very anti-Eastern, always like that. These people, they're woke people. They never like East Asia. So, but this is not funny. When it comes to progressive characters, especially then trans characters and so on, right? Japan, of course, has been way ahead of that for many, many years, right? You know, for example, we have the classic, you know, Haku in Naruto or whatever, right? You know, it's a lot of, you know, trans characters and so forth, gender-bending characters. Ranma, of course, very one, you know, in manga and anime, right? But Ranma is like gender-bender, I guess, change gender by guys or one, right? But very, very, you know, common characters, right, in manga and anime, and also partially then, you know, Japanese games, right? Where the West didn't have much trans or gender-bending character until like later 2010 or yeah, because there are a few of them, but very very few, right? So comparable to Japan, there's so much more of them, right? So it's very easy, honestly, to be like I am, obviously a real nerd, right? That like both East and West. I'm not obsessed with the East, right? I just like whatever is good, you know what I mean? I always say that, especially like this year's then, right? 24's top 10 games. Now it happens that almost every goddamn top 10 game is made outside of the West. But that is not because I'm like an East, I'm not some fanboy like, yeah, Japanese, Korea, China, even though it kind of feels like that. But it's more an effect of just the West failing, right? When it comes to culture or stuff, both in gaming but also movies and so on. Because it's just like, But honestly, I don't know what to say otherwise. Yeah, it's like, no, I play the games that are good, right, But it just happens to be that all the good games are from Japan and a few ones from China and Korea. And yeah, like, it's weird, but that's how it's happened for the last years now. Well, I mean, we know why, but you get my point. It's how it is, right? So, but back in the days then, if you jump 20 years back, right, whatever, it used to be more like that maybe you had better games from the West. I wouldn't say barely, but also that. But you definitely had more progressive games, right? Think about it. It's a funny side note, right? In this video here, I pointed out. Think about it. It could be its own video, but it'd be interesting because Japan, especially that, was way more progressive, right, than America was 20 years ago. Way more, in America, it was like you can't have a gay character in a movie, right? In Japan, they had Sailor Moon. You had, one of the Sailor Moon is a lesbian, two of them are together, so alright, so Sailor Moon had a lesbian couple, so on, yeah. Japan was so ahead of that, they had a sense of that. So yeah, so they have two lesbians in Sailor Moon, but one of them is only a man than always. He's a man in cross-dressing in America. Yeah, in America, Sailor Moon, they aren't lesbians, right? Because that wouldn't be, okay, right? So that's what I mean. Like Japan was so ahead of that, right? But of course, what happened is that class thing, right? That here are we, the normal people, right? And we are progressive, and here is the status quo, and then it goes like that, right? And it just ran past them, right? So Japan, I would argue for, so to speak, was more progressive, more left-leaning than America was, right? Like 20, 30 years ago. But then, of course, America kept moving left further and further, right? And then they moved past Japan, and then they moved into this, like, you have to have, a list of trans and this and that, and it has to be 3 lesbian characters per game, and yeah. We moved into that. You want to win an Oscar? It has to be this many percentage Polynesian people in your movie. You know what I mean? We can move into that, right? But in historically aspects, Japan actually was ahead of that. And my point to come back to that is that when you want to find these characters, right, to piss them off with, to outvoke them, right? That's what I mean. Outvoking them is easy because if you're like me, a hardcore nerd, and you can also pretend to be one, if you know what I mean. No, we can same strategy. What I mean is that you can easier find these progressive, like cooler black, cooler female characters, cooler trans characters, actually from Japan, right? I mean, think about it. How many, like, cool female, actually well-written female characters do you have in the West? Very, very few. Japan is hundreds of them, right? Anime, manga, gaming, yeah, there's so many of them. Much more of them, right? Many more of them exist in Japan, right? Especially like the fighter female character, right? You said, but it's someone like the Blaze video, Yurichi, who's love Yurichi, right? I have a huge naked, it was a miracle. Bellona, no, but especially the muscular fighting waifu is, of course, way more popularized in Japan, right, than it is, in America, whatever, right? Yeah. So it's easy, right, to actually find like strong female characters, and then you put them there at your office, and people are like, okay, well, I guess you can. Yeah. So it really breaks me. The point, of course, I come back to is that this, my first tip here, right, is to break them by showing them something that they want to have, right, but also don't want to admit they want to have. You know what I mean? Because they want you to like Poison, right? So if I'm like, oh, I look at Poison hentai every day, man. I love Poison hentai. My boss is like, yeah, but also like, no, you know what I mean? Like, you want to give them like you really, the point genuinely is to give them something they hate, love on the same time, right? So their brain just fries, right? Because they're like, I like that he has a trans poster, but it's also too sexy. What does the rule say about this thing, right? So they can't handle it, right? Because obviously I own a lot of figures too, right? So I collect foot and other figures. I'm not gonna show them now here on YouTube then, right, because of the thing, but I have a bunch of them, right, like 10 of them, right, you know what I mean? So I can bring them to work too, Here's a foot figure, right? And then it's also, because I have this like, what's it called? It's called like Aphrodite, basically. It's just like a general figure. And you can see her, thing between her like clothing, right? But you can't really see it. So it's kind of like hidden, but not really hidden, you know what I mean? So it kind of works at the office, but it's very borderline, you know what I mean? It's very borderline, right? But the point of course is it's very borderline. And then the people at the office be like, it's not okay, but it's very progressive, okay? Yeah, so, bam, I get my point. That's my first point then. You break the brains by outvoking them, okay? In that sense, right? With preferably stuff like figures and posters and play these weird games or whatever. Right? It's super funny. It's super funny, and that I just truly enjoy. Which is also is that, in my experience, they also have no clue, right? Like I said in my previous, these people are usually fake nerds, they're tourists, right? They have no clue, right? If you say that, oh, this is a trans character from this old Japanese game 30 years ago, they say, oh, you're lying. No, he's actually this, like his Wikipedia article. They're like, whoa, yeah, and they're gonna be shocked by it, and they're also gonna make them better. So you can easily own them over and over again. But actually knowing more stuff they do not, but actually progress stuff. But anyway, next point then is on the same category of how to outvoke them, and that is basically this classic fallacy of absurdum reactum. Right? So you take whatever they say and you push to its logical limits. Right? So one thing I love to do with the office when I work with these Vogue people, right, is that they love to talk about, equal outcome, right, and of course equal, like, forced outcome then. So, you probably heard it before, right, you have the equal outcome, you have equal opportunity, right, but obviously the crazy Vogue, they believe in equal outcome. They just want people to have the exact same thing of everything, right. Everyone should have the same salary and, so forth, right. The way I counter everyone should have exact same outcome is what I call Vogue sexual marriage thing. Okay, what I mean by that is that if you're gonna have equal outcome of everything, you need to actually have everyone be married also on the same age, right, and have the same amount of children, right. If you actually read dystopian books about communism, almost every dystopian communist books will summarize some kind of world where everyone is married and have like 2 or 4 kids, right. So you have like a boy and a son kind of thing. Yeah, so a boy and a son. Obviously a boy and a daughter. Yeah. So in typical dystopian communist ideals, right, you will have parents. So the parents will have to have 2 children, 1 per gender, right, a boy and a girl. But usually, then to increase the course population, right, you will have to have obviously 4 children. So you will have 2 boys and 2 girls, right. You can't actually have 3 children, that's unfair, right? So seriously, right? In a typical communist dystopian equal outcome society, everyone would have like 4 children. Because you'd be forced to have, 2 of each, right? You can't have 3 because that's unfair. Then one family will have, 2 boys, 1 girl, whatever. Or it might be you could have, of course, only 2 as well. But then society would have exactly the same amount of people then. But those 2 shit, you can't have 5, you can't have 1, right? And what this leads to is this weird positioning, right? We have forced abortion if they have too many kids, right? But also abortion is illegal if they have too few kids, right? In a classic communistic, worldview, right? You would have to basically force citizens to have a set number of children, right? Again, probably 4, right? So if you have 5, you can't have 5. 5th has to be aborted. If you have 3 and you're giving birth to your 4th child, you have to force the mom to give birth to it. You can't abort the child, right? So I get them hardcore this thing. It's very easy to break the focus on this thing, right? If they want to have this forced equal outcome, tell them that, well, that breaks your idea, right, of women's, freedom of choice, right? Because either they're going to be forced to have children or forced to have an abortion, right? That's what you actually are, saying, right? If you're against democracy and you want to have your communism, that's what it leads to, right? It leads to like a set number of children per woman, right? You know what I mean? It's super crazy, right? So that's why I usually break them massively, especially if there are female vocals, right? They will be very broken by this thing. Because obviously they believe in, freedom of choice, my body, my choice, so on, right? You tell them that, well, it can't be your body, your choice. If you actually want your leftist ideas, you're gonna be forced to have like 4 kids per woman, right? So you can't have that actually. So, because you'll be forced to have an abortion or be forced to keep the child, right? If you're under your quota, right, or whatever it is, 2, 4, 6, 8, whatever the state has decided. So basically, right, these women that are very far lefty and they want to have all this left ideas, they tend to also be, my body, my choice. But in an actual left society, it's the government's body, right? Your body isn't your part. Your body is a lot of the state, right? And it always breaks basically every feminist woke mind ever, right? Telling that, but if you have your actual woke ideas, you won't have your body anymore, right? It's a government body, right? So it breaks it completely. The next thing to break them with in the same kind of category, which is very easy, is of course LGBTQ stuff as well, right? So if you have a forced society, again, right, the same thing, a man and a woman have their four children each, right? That means that, of course, what happens to the gay people? What happens to the lesbians, right? As you probably know, countries like Russia, countries like that are not very LGBTQ friendly, right? They don't really believe in that, and that's because they kind of have that idea, right, of two children, man, and so on. So that's also one of the reasons why I think we have the whole conceptual comedy, right, of like chicken for KFC and so on, right? Because it's like, why are these far lefty LGBTQ people? Why do you want to have these like left-leaning ideas, right? Because these people won't be allowed to live in a left-leaning idea. Like in America, the people that are most for this like extreme left, all the people that will be punished first, right? People with their blue, purple hair, and they have the queer, non-binary, they would never be allowed in a communist country. They would be shot immediately, yeah. So it's super crazy. That's very, very obvious. And everyone knows that. Think about it. And, and the people that are actually living in hardcore communist countries, they're laughing at them, They're like, what idiots. These people are the first people to be punished. Yeah, they're completely outside, right, but won't be allowed, right, in that kind of society. There's a word for it in Chinese, right, in Mandarin. It's called baisu. Baisu, Google it up, yeah. Bai means white, of course. So, bai is, Japanese for white too as well. Because like, for example, in Naruto, Byakuya means white eye, right? Yeah, so you can say the bai word, it's the same thing in Mandarin and in Nihongo and so on as well, yeah. It means like white or clear or, clandestine white or whatever. So you hear it a lot, in Japanese as well. But it doesn't make any sense, right? Because you people will be the first one to not be allowed anymore. So yeah, but honestly, that's how I break them too all the time. So I think that's the easiest way, I think, to break the whole discussion when they want to argue about equal outcome, right? And this happens a lot when you work at a woke gaming company, because you're obsessed with equal salaries and equal that and equal this and equal whatever leave and equal this, and everything has to be equal. And one of the reasons the company went bankrupt is kind of funny, because we are producing some games, right, with obviously the microtransaction in it, because they haven't still had it, yeah. But one of the CTO, we had a meeting, him and me, and he was against some of these typical microtransaction stuff, right? And I was like, yeah, but we have that in the game, and this is not my choice, but the game has that, right? He's just like, oh, but isn't it evil and this and that? And I'm like, we have to make money somehow, And he's just like, no, but this thing should be this, and so he didn't want basically the, how to describe it, but basically he didn't want to have an actual, like functional marketing store, right, in the games. In this game he was controlling mostly then, because he believes in some kind of planned economy, communism, hellhole, right? So he wants to have some kind of really weird market store where like everything that you can buy from the game should be equally costing. Everything should cost just $5 or whatever. Or, like he has some kind of weird idea there. They try to enforce it. And I'm just like, but you're stupid. Like, if I have a marketplace, right, and I have 50 different items in my market, I have to sell them for different values, right? And even if it's a digital marketplace, obviously they have different price ranges, and we have discounts, we have Black Fridays, and everything like that, because that's how capitalism and market works, right? So you can sell some stuff, buy some more stuff, more rarer stuff costs more money, right? Better stuff costs more money. That's just how it works. He's just like, nah, that's not fair. Put everything on 5. And I'm like, no, get out of my office. But seriously, he's so stupid that he was, I like to force this thing. And before I worked at the company, they did stuff like that, yeah. So they were losing money, right? Because this guy is like, he takes like a skin in our game, right? That the artists have worked like 3 months on, and it probably costs like, say, I don't know, $5 to $10 per that skin, right? Probably more, but at least 5, right? And he's just like, $1. It should be free to everyone. I was like, no, the skin costs like 3 months of work. It costs like $5, okay? And I'm not saying that, I wanted to defend DLC, and so on. It's not another video, but I mean, obviously, if we make a skin tower game, right, we have to sell it for something, right? You know? If you make it after the game is released, right? If you make one game with different skins and such, right, and then, whatever, but when it's finished, right? But if you make skins like a year, 2 years, 3 years later, obviously the company will have to get paid for that, right? And I'm not saying that it's a good system we have right now with like a number of DLC and it costs like $50 for like, some league skin for like $40 or whatever. That is crazy. The horse skin for 10, what was it? Was that $10 for that like ugly horse thing in what was it? Dragon Age 1 something? Whatever it was, the $100 horse thing, whatever. Like those stuff are crazy, right? Those are crazy. But at the same time, it can't also be like $0, right? There has to be something in between. It has to be a reasonable sum. It can't be like astronomically expensive. I hate that too. And if that was the case, then I would have agreed with this, far lefty communist guy. That he was like, you can't take $500 for a skin. And I was like, no, I want to make money. And then I would agree with him. Then he would be like, correct, right? But the market was fairly, the prices were fairly even, I would say. Fairly decent, fairly like, it wasn't really overpriced, right? And he's just like, let's be $1. I was like, no, that's way too cheap, right? And to some extent, it might make it cheaper because we can sell more copies, right? But it has to have some kind of, middle ground where you sell enough copies to obviously make a profit. Otherwise, there's no point of having the artist doing it, right? That's how it is, right? Obviously, everyone understands that, except, loony leftists, right? Yeah, they don't understand that. And honestly, the company went bankrupt straight up for stuff like this, right? This stuff, and also not firing incredible bad people, right? That mixture of like literally losing money on producing products because they're underselling them, like straight up, and then losing money because having terrible employees. That's the two biggest factors. But how do you manage that? You don't, I guess. You talk about your office. Honestly, that just goes back to maybe the most classic how to deal with the folk. You just tell them you never apologize. Yeah, you never apologize. You never apologize. Never apologize. They say that you're wrong, you apologize. But yeah. But anyway, so that's the side story there. But it's true, unfortunately. Jesus Christ. Another way to deal with equal outcome, though, my last point, equal outcome, is the most common thing to come back to, though. It's sex, right? So you have the whole executing, you have number of children, right? We also have number of encounters, right? So there's a little anime that I like. It's called Koi to Uso, where everyone has to get married at 18 and they have to have children and so on, right? Because it's Japan in the future and they have too few children. The concept of forced marriage is interesting from a community standpoint because it's like maybe they wouldn't be bad actually. Everyone has to get married at 18, right? And everyone has to have sex or something. And this leads me to what I love doing the most then, right, with woke people. And that is just to outlogically woke them and basically pretend that you agree with them even more than they wanted to agree with, right? So they tell me that everyone should have equal salary. I'm like, yeah, great. And everyone should have equal sex as well. And they're like, what do you mean with that? Well, everyone has to get married at 18, forced marriage by the state, and we have to have sex at 7, everyone, every day. Everyone is not equal, right? Equal outcome means everyone needs to score equal amount of times, Like literally, I had this man at the office being like, but I mean, if everything has to be equal outcome, I need to have a wife, if they need to have sex exactly the same amount of times everyone else has, right? Everyone has to have this missionary at 7, No, but seriously, that's actually what it means, right? If you want to be super, left-leaning, right, and believe in equal outcome, you have to also agree in that everyone has to have exactly the same amount of banging, right? At the same time, the positioning, and so forth, right? So the best way when it comes to this, like, extended woke debates with these people, right, is to just be the most woke, right? Okay? Be the most woke. If they want equal outcome and salary, you tell them that you want everyone to be equally married, they have to have sex at the same time and so on. Yeah, everyone doing it, right? And everyone has to go to the park on Saturday at 1 o'clock, you know, like 1994, yeah. But basically, right, tell them the 1984 dream world. They're like, oh, equal outcome, but sure, everyone has to buy Sesame game. At 1 o'clock, play the game at 1 o'clock. At Sundays, everyone has to go to the ice rink and play hockey for 3 minutes, you know. Like, tell them that, you know, go super insane about it. Yeah, oh, yeah. And also, as always, like with Poster, always be saying, oh, I agree with you. And you agree with me, right? Everyone should be super equal in everything. And my favorite, you know, communist leader is Pol Pot, right? So every time that I get really into them, I would always be like, let's do like Pol Pot did, right? If someone is richer than someone else, kill them. If someone got glasses, you know, if someone is better than you at your job, like a farmer, if you have 2 farmers and one farmer makes more food than another one, we gotta kill them, right? Yeah. Like, yes, I agree with you. It's a great idea, right? Seriously, I do it all the time with people. I worked there for a while, right? I did the same thing at like high school, right? And it works perfectly well. You just outvote them. Just be more vote than them. Yeah, just take it to the extreme level. Yeah, they are all very extreme. You go even further to extreme, right? And the funny thing is that half of them will basically agree with you. Be like, yeah, I like this guy. Yeah, oh yeah. Like, you know. So for example, I have this CEO, right? The Antifa CEO and the Alpha member. He comes back, right? And from some rally in Sweden, and he talks about like punching a Nazi or whatever, right? And I'm just like, yeah. You know what we should do, bro? We should put them all in camps. He's like, camps, yeah. We should put every guy that votes for the right, not just Nazis, everyone that votes right way. He's like, yeah, every Republican, yeah. Put them all in camps, yeah. So kind of like, you know, relearning camps, yeah. Force them to, you know, learn the real values of people. He's like, yeah. And then maybe we kill, maybe if they die in the camps, we can take the organs and give them to poor children. We can give the organs and also to the poor leaders. He's like, yes. We take the organs and give it to less fortunate. Yes, very good. You think in China? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I've done that a many times too, right? I'm just like, you're right, man. But I think you are taking it too less far. We should do way more of that. Like, because they become that and pretend they have, you know, the good on the side, right? God is with them, they're left violence, right? And you just take them and say, yeah, I agree with you. Let's just take it further, yeah. I just think we should go way further when it comes to your ideals, right? But many times have I done the Chinese camp strategy. It works every time, see, it's so funny, because I'm always just like, oh yeah, so you wanna put them on in camps maybe? Yeah, put them in camps, yeah. Take the organs, it's great. Yeah, they're like, yes, let's do that. It's just like, well, like I said, I'm laughing because half the time, right, the people disagree with you. Yeah, half the time they don't understand that you're making fun of them. Yeah, it's so crazy and actually kind of dangerous. But that's kind of my summary of outvote the vote, right? The other ways to manage it too, but that is the best way to manage it. The next way to manage it, right, okay, this is something happened to me with many times, but especially I had this female co-worker, coming back to her later, because she's the hysteric worker, coming to later as well, but she once, for another co-worker, said like, oh, what do you know, you're a cis white male, you know, do the whole cis white male, and I'm just like, no, I'm not. I'm trans. You know, I'm a futanari. You can't say it to me. And she's like, you're not. How do you know that? I'm a bisexual. Yeah, you can't say that, right? And immediately, with everyone, every time in my life at any office, when someone calls me like, "Oh, you're wrong because you're cis and white," so on, I should be like, "I'm not cis," right? And of course, sometimes they will come back to you and say, "Oh, you're lying. You actually are cis." And I was like, "But Aaron, isn't like Eric?" Gay? You never question him. He's gay. Well, he's actually gay. So you say, I am lying. What if he's lying? Well, you know, and then you can't ask me about my actual sexual, that's sexual issues. Or you say I'm not allowed to be gay. And so you're homophobic, right? And then you call them homophobic, then you call them transphobic. So of course, you have to call them the same thing. Yeah, obviously, of course. But honestly, every time at my work, every time in my life, when anyone is trying to insult me about you're a white man or whatever, I would always immediately say, no, I'm not. I'm actually, you know, I identify as an elf, and I'm a futanari, and I'm a drainy, and this thing, right? and I always make fun of it, but also you say that, no, you can't that, and you can't disprove me because you aren't allowed to ask me about my gender indication. That actually breaks the rules in HR. If you ask me that, that's actually against HR rules, so you can't ask me either. And you, but believing in me, you are also insulting me, you know what I mean? You have to just play their own game, right, you know, play their own game. I think it's very easy to maneuver that thing, because what I learned over the years, right, is that when you fight the woke, right, you can't fight them with logic and reasoning, right, because they don't use logic and stuff, right. So we want to fight them, right, we want to fight the woke people, you have to fight them with fire, right. And fire for them, the sword, is of course the same kind of arguments, right. So they're gonna use the whole, you were transphobic, you were this, you're that, you know, you're all deplorables, right? They're gonna use it against you. So what you should do is the same thing. If they're calling you whatever sexist, you call them transphobic, you know what I mean? And you will explain to them how they are whatever, something else, right? You just turn it around against them, right? You know. I'm also talking about deflecting. I'm saying you are worse than me. Yeah, you make them also be the bad guy, right? For example, right, when I had my Yamato debates, people, right, a few years ago on this channel and so on, right, with One Piece. And people that refuse to understand Japanese culture would say that she is, you know, transgender and so forth, right? But I would say that they are bokuphobes, right? I mean, I read about, yeah, bokuphobia. I would say you're a bokuphobe, right? And they'd be like, what is that? Well, it's a word I made. It's a word I made up. Use this proof you, yeah. So every time now, when someone debates me on Yamato, I call them bokuphobes. Yeah, oh, you're a bokuphobe, I see. You hate bokos. Oh, what's wrong with you? Yeah, goddamn bokuphobes, right? That's how I did it. Yeah, just call them something else, right? And it's so funny too, because these people, they will try to maneuver you, right, by calling you evil white man or whatever, cis and so on, right, or this and that, phobes. They themselves, of course, are the people the most, right, that actually are affected by that. What I mean is that if someone calls me whatever phobe, right, I mean, it's like I just laugh at it. It has absolutely zero effect on me. I mean, no words really affect me, but they have absolutely, I'm just laughing at it, right? But if I call them, then they actually feel like, oh, no, I'm a good person. Like, no, you're not. You know what I mean? No, you're not. You're not a good person, yeah. They're actually way more affected by those kind of insults, right, than I am. So it's turned around. And also, you have to really remember, right, that the woke is, in general here, they are much, much weaker when it comes to insults overall, right? Because they live in that world, you know. They live in this fantasy world where words are stronger than, you know, meanings, right? And physical actions, you know what I mean? I'm not afraid of someone calling me a word. I'm afraid of someone with a knife or a gun shooting at me, yeah. That's something I can be afraid of. I'm not afraid of someone saying a bad word to me, you know what I mean? But they actually are, because they have this fantasy world, right, where being called like fat is as equally bad as being shot, which it really isn't, but they believe in that, right? So they are also much weaker because of debate too. We come back to that you can't actually criticize them, right, which I mentioned many times over, right? But it's really funny. So it means as soon as you turn around and call them bokophobes or whatever you made up for the day, they can't handle that. They're like, no, I'm not. It's like, no. But the thing is that, and this is something very important to understand, right, is that far left-leaning people, not all of them, but most of them have, of course, you know, a skeleton buried somewhere, right? They usually are. Many reasons, a big factor why they are like they are, right? Many of them is because they are hiding something they actually done themselves, you know what I mean? They're just projecting their own insecurities and their own bad behavior, right? Very, very common of these people. So if you have a coworker like that, figure out what that is, you know, and use it against them, yeah. Figure out what it is. For example, I keep saying with here at too, is that in the gaming industry, almost all of these woke leftists in the West, they hate Japan and China and, you know, and Korea, right? So you can always just call them racist, like seriously, because I say this, I mean, genuinely, almost every woke person I met in like Swedish gaming industry and also American gaming industry that are woke or racist against people, yeah, straight up, yeah. I keep saying it, but they really are like that, and you see it in the media, right, with the whole Wukong and Stellar Blade and so on, yeah, they are like that, all of them, right? I'm not saying that every game developer in, like, America is against Japan or whatever, but I'm saying that, again, that the woke game developers and game journalists, they clearly are woke, trust me, they are, the likelihood of them also being, like, directly racist against Japanese people is massively higher. The reason why, of course, is much deeper, actually, that is so kind of competitive with Japan, right? The reason why usually, I made a video about that 2 years ago, the reason why, if we go deeper here, is because the left hates East Asians, right? And also, of course, Jews. because they're very successful, right? Because as I said in my last video, the left believes in socioeconomical factors, ergo you're born with your, whatever you're born as, whatever you are, your money, your wealth, all that stuff, right? That's just who you are, right? Not like your DNA, not your own, your own will or your own destiny, or whatever. Like I said, last video is called Tabula Rasa, blank slate here, right? They believe that everyone is just born as like a grey mold, and you're only molded by your economical factors, right? Whatever. This should be a long video, but you can. I think Pink is a good book about this. There's a lot of books about Tabula Rasa, so I don't feel I have to make a video about it. But basically, right, they believe in that. I mentioned that before. And the reason they hate Japanese people, right, the Japanese devs, is because they don't like East Asians. Because big factor why. Because, of course, in America, right, East Asian people, and of course, again, also the Jews, are very successful, right, in business, education, so on, right, Harvard degrees, whatever, right, yeah. They get much better degrees so far, right, because, of course, their culture is very focused, on education and learning, getting good grades, and becoming doctors, engineers. The meme, doctor in the Asian dad is like, you can either be this or that. You can't be a plumber, you have to be an engineer or a doctor, what I mean? So, because of that backstory, or that back subconscious factor, right, the left in America, especially, but also in Europe, but especially in America, really doesn't like East Asians, again, because they always have, successful jobs and degrees and so forth, right? It disproves this idea of tabula rasa, right? It's disproven by how poor Asians, not always, but most of them, do better, than rich white people. Yeah, like it's just so much better. It also disproves that some kind of white supremacy in America, right? Because in America, the people that are doing the best aren't the white people, not the East Asian. Yeah. The East Asians are the one having the best per person, and not white people. White or F them, though. It's true. And it is true that white people is doing it better, having it better than black people, right? But white people are not the top of American, like average person per this culture, per race or whatever, no. So, whatever, long side note, but I think you have to remember that point, right? Because what I'm saying here is how to argue and maneuver the woke in the game industry, right? And like I said last video, then, they really dislike East Asian games, right? And also then, as I said now, do deeply understand, have it in your mind, that they really don't like Asians. Like, they don't, because like you said, right? And also don't like the games, because the games have sexy waifus and so on, yeah. So they really hate East Asians, they really do. Of course, I'm generalizing it, obviously I am, but like, not really. They really do. All the wokies, I mean, again, not all game developers, but all game devs that are also all woke, or basically hate Asian people. So you can always call them racist. I've done it so many times in my life. I don't know how many times in my life when I had some dispute, right, with a woke in the game industry, and they're trying to call me X or X or Z, and I'm just like, don't give me that shit, because I know that you're a racist. And they're like, oh, yes, you are. You can't handle people in Japan, Korea, China, Mongolia, whatever. You hate East Asians, and we all know both of them. No, I don't. And what about you? And 70s, and you also hate Jews, right? They're like, I mean, Jews, and they do too, always. I mean, find me a woke person that likes Israel, you know what I mean? Especially now, yeah. Find me a woke person now that is pro-Israel, yeah. It's gonna be hard for you to find that, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's even before, of course, the current conflict. It's not like they like Jews, right? Or Israel. So, but especially even more now, of course, we all see it in the schools and streets and so on. Yeah, I don't have to into that, but you know what I mean. So, no, they have a huge weak spot there, the Wokies in the game industry, East Asian and Jews. But even more so, I think I keep saying East Asians because it's like a double no for them. They're owned by triple weakness, yeah. They hate the titties, They hate the boobs, right? That's one weakness. They hate the hot poison, right? They hate the hot trans girl, right? They hate that. They want trans people to be ugly. Honestly, yeah, they don't like hot trans girls, which is weird, right? So they don't like that. They don't like that East Asian or rich or whatever and good degrees. They don't like that. And thirdly, they don't like that East Asian games are outselling them. That manga and anime is selling better than comic books and so on. They don't like that. They're losing the culture war, right? So it's like a triple threat for them, right? So it's even better now to bring up how racist they are against Asians. But I always do that, and they can never deflect that. They're always stuck because every time you pressure them on that, the vocals will have to basically be like, I mean, I'm not a racist, but those Japanese are evil. They like this, you know. They will always try to blame it on the Japanese for being bad, right? But they will always come back to that. They cannot not deny their disdain for Japan. It's like they're a giant weakness they have when it comes to any kind of race stuff. Yeah, so you can always just call them that, right? And like I said, they actually care about that. If you call me that word, I'm saying no, I'm not. I hate everyone equally. Yeah, I hate everyone, so no, I'm not. Right? I'm just gonna laugh at it, you know. I'm just gonna laugh. Jesus Christ. I'm just gonna laugh at it. Phone now. I'm just gonna laugh. I just laugh at it, right? I don't believe it. But that's massive weakness. Now, let's go away from Vogue stuff because it's goddamn boring. It's so we can't just make a whole video about that, right? You know, we have to talk about the psychopaths and the autistic people and the Pikachus and so on. I'm just gonna change my camera a little bit here. Give me a second. Perfect. It's like an hour in the video. Perfect. Perfect, like cut off there. Yeah. Honestly, that was on purpose. No, it wasn't purpose. Yeah, that's how good I am. See, the first time I tried the Monster, so I like Monster, I like Red Bull, whatever. I should be sponsored. I used to be sponsored by Red Bull back then, whatever. But I think one reason why I like this one, Punch, is because the first one I drank this one, right? I was at Orlando, Universal, or in Orlando then, in Florida. I never had one before, Punch Monster. I had it in my suitcase. We go to Orlando, right? Or to the park I'm in. I had it in my freezer. Go there, bought it up, started drinking this one, right? Usually entered Universal, saw the cool stuff there, Springfield and all the cool rides and so on. So this is how it is, right? The memories, you know. I like the taste, but also every time I drink it, I'm like, every time I open this bottle of Punch, I'm like, oh yeah. Like I see like beautiful sun, perfect weather, you know, at Florida, yeah, great. The scenery, and so on, right? I'm the most American there is, you know. Florida, man. I'm going to Florida next month, maybe, so. I hope so, at least. I'm going to Florida probably this year, at least. Twice, probably. At least twice, probably. But I think I will travel to Florida soon, actually, for work. So, thumbs up for that. That's inside yet. I mean, now it's Christmas break, right? Christmas vacation. So, but I think I'm going to plan a Florida trip, actually, coming back to work. So, yeah, but I was thinking about it, it's interesting, because the first time I drank that Taste of Monster was exactly when I entered Universal. So now every time I drink a Punch Monster, I'm like, yeah, I remember this thing. Anyway, back to the video. No, but I need a mental break from all the Vogue nightmare memories. Because seriously, when I explain this to you guys, right, I'm laughing a little bit, but it's more like a Spider-Man laugh, you know. I'm laughing to hide my, not insecurities, my traumas. I'm laughing to hide my PTSD for having dealt with these insane people, right? My God. One thing I have to admit, though, is that, like my friend told me from grad school, right? So I studied psychology at grad school, you know, a lot. And I have a friend that he's a psychologist, right? We talked about this a few years ago. And all my crazy, you know, co-workers and so on, right? And he's just like, but you love it, though. Admit it to me. He's like, no, I hate it. Like, but at the same time, though, you love being surrounded by a bunch of loons. So you can sit there and, you know, look at them and laugh at them. And I'm like, it is like going to the zoo every day. It is like having your own zoo. So a little bit, so that it is a little bit like hate love for it, because yes, it's very frustrating, it's very crazy, but also being like keenly aware of that's happening, right? Not just being crazy by yourself, but actually sitting there, interesting, this guy is eating a banana now. He also uses I have used a lot of my coworkers in the past as basically like zoo examples. And honestly, I mean, I have to thank them in a sense, right? But I mean, I've always been a good behavior scientist, I think so, myself at least. I mean, I published more papers than more people did when I was in college. Before I even finished my degree, I had like 3 papers, right? So I was definitely better than the average one, at least, than the average student, so to speak. But, of course, it helps, right? Spending all this time into the loons, you know what I mean? It's like a lot of, you know, people go to like a prison, right? and interviews like murderers and so on. Yeah, I've done it too. I've also gone to and interviewed criminals. But it's kind of like the same thing here, like sitting, like being surrounded by a bunch of like psychotic loons all day long. You're like, oh, it helps you a lot to understand how to think, yeah, because you can talk to them at lunch break and say, oh, that's how you think about food. Interesting. I write it down. He's completely stupid. But generally, you know what I mean. I used them as my test subject, so I admit that. And obviously, I am the craziest one. Last little video like this, how you do with me, the craziest one. No, but in that sense, I am crazy too, right? You know, but it's not like, how do I say it? Now we change company, right, from A to B. It doesn't get much better, right? Because you're gonna have the same loons in the next company as well, right? Now, it is, to be fair, the reason of course I bring up the whole communist, Yrkeshögskola and FI and so on, is because this company in Sweden though was by far the worst I've been in my life at when it comes to woke people. So not entirely true. But the example when I moved from this company then, right, this uber woke company in Sweden, the company went bankrupt, right? I got a new job immediately afterwards at another game company, a new game company, and sorry, Jesus Christ. Got a New Year's parties, yeah. So I went from super woke game company to, I mean, like I said earlier, still woke, right? You know what I mean? Because yes, this company here was insanely woke, like the wokest of wokest nightmares. But this thing over here is still woker than the average, you know, life you'll ever have, right? Yeah. So it's like less woke. But that company instead, we had more autistic programmers and more weirdos otherwise, right? So even if there were less woke people, they were still a bunch of insane people anyway, right? So it's like, and also woke, and also woke people, yeah. So it's like, oh yeah, it's like 10% less woke people, but instead it's 2 psychopaths. You know what I mean? It's like, they say the trade-off is like, yeah, I got rid of one insane person for another insane person, right? But certainly it's a big difference though, rather between countries, absolutely. As soon as you go to Japan, it's much better because the Japanese are so better at hard working, right? And they're less emotional and stuff and so on. This will be another video that I'll do one day, but there's a big difference working between like Sweden, America, whatever, France, Japan, whatever, Australia, whatever. Yeah, very different work environments. Yeah, speaking. I think one thing which I always bring up, I think one thing about it here, because I don't want to derail the video now, but I think one thing about it, and that is that in Sweden, one thing I hate in Sweden is that Swedes hate to be in charge, kind of thing. No one wants to be in charge. So in Sweden, everyone is like at the vote about everything. Not always, but Swedes tend to try to almost make it the whole group's fault if something's gonna fail, right? So that makes it even worse in this like woke environment because it's like even more debates then that sometimes the managers you say we do X thing, right? But Swedish managers tend to try to not actually decide anything. So people be the groups, so they try to like diverge, not having to can we vote about this thing? So it becomes even more like influential. But oh sorry, I lost it. Anyway, what should we do now then? So I have my Excel sheet here then of different people that I worked with. But let's go away from Excel. Let's go from Vogue now. Let's go to nothing else than that. You a bunch of different weird people that I worked with in my life in them, or different like personalities. Well, I guess we can take one that I like talking about. Histrionic personality disorder. Or it used to be called hysteric personality disorder. Or maybe it's in Swedish. I can never pronounce this word correctly, like histrionic, right? When I was a young, hot guy, it was called like hysterical disorder. It's the same thing, I believe. Exactly. But I think that, I guess, hysteric sounded worse, so they vocalified it. No, but seriously, okay? If you go and read DSM-5, right, and other kind of, like, you know, disorder books, right, it is kind of hilarious because words like psychopath, suspect isn't used anymore, which is very weird because they had like, a lot of debates about what was so on back in the days. But now, of course, what they use is anti-personality disorder, right? ASPD is what you should do. And histrionic personality disorder, HPD, I think HPD. It's usually underneath ASPD then. So ASPD is like an umbrella term and then you go down, right? So and narcissistic is another, and borderline is another one and so on, right? So they kind of have this like a weirder structure around it. But the reason they have that is honestly just that wokeness, right? The reason they don't use words like psychopath in DSM-5 is because they basically felt like the word psychopath was ruined by the movie Saw, right? And it had like a bad, in your flavor to it. So they were like, oh, we can't use that. Let's call it OSPD instead, or something. Yeah, like they didn't want to use the more accurate term anymore. And that I think is a massive disservice. So because now, right, I'm gonna explain a little bit how to deal with insane coworkers in different ways, right? A lot of the terms I'm gonna use will be like sociopathic coworker, I mean, I will use the terms, right? But because they kind of summarize them all under anti-personality disorder, I hate that word so much, OSPD, because that doesn't mean much. OSPD is basically like 20 different disorders that they all just put into one, because again they wanted to censor these mean words, right? So they can call them lesser offensive words, which is really stupid, of course. But I digress. Histrionic was like, again, then I believe, at least when I was a kid, when I studied in school, when I was in grad school, this was called hysteric personality disorder, which is a better word for it. It makes more sense. But I believe they changed that because they were like, again, oh, it sounds too mean, right? Hysteric personality disorder. But anyway, this I brought it up in the last video, so this is a little recap from the last video. But I think it's a very important thing to bring up because this is a very common issue you have in the coworkers, and not necessarily that they have full-blown like histrionic disorder, but at least they have traits of it. And what I mean mostly is the narcissistic juvenile trait. So you can be a narcissist in different ways, right? But what they are what's called juvenile narcissistic traits, which is not the same thing exactly like a normal narcissist. And this is something that's very annoying in a coworker, and it's very common, honestly, right? So what they do then, the juvenile narcissist, is that they will always blame you. They will never ever take account for anything, right? And the example I always use is the cake and the cookie thing, right? So for example, a mom has made a cake, right? She made a cake, and she leaves the house to come back, and the kid has eaten the whole cake, right? And she's like, what are you eating my cake for? Now you're gonna, that's terrible. But about your brother and your dad and so on, right? And the kid is like, it's not my fault. You ate the cake. You didn't say I could eat the cake. You know what I mean? So the kid will blame their mom, right? Because the mom hasn't stopped them specifically, right? This is a very common trait, actually, in bad coworkers. A lot of bad coworkers I met in my life have the exact same argument, right? They will ruin something in your code or something on your table, or put this over there, or they will display stuff, or they put up on your main, and you say, why are you do that for? And then they destroy the mainframe. And they're like, you didn't tell me I couldn't do that. You're like, but I shouldn't have to tell you can't do that. This is so stupid. Oh, it's your fault you didn't warn me. It's like, what? Like that's that kind of, juvenile. Again, that's very juvenile, right? And I give you a bunch of samples of the course of juvenile trait, but that's the main issue that these people have. They have the historical disorder trait have, that they are very juvenile in their defenses, right? But like I said, you can't have a juvenile narcissist without being histrionic personality disorder. That's why I kind of bring that first, because this is, I think, the main issue, right? Because again, then what you're dealing with, right, are people that have a crazy annoying issue to never improve or take accountability, right? So for example, I had this coworker now, which is cray, right? And she literally like destroys stuff on a table, like take the thing and push it down. I should hit the mic again. Last time I pushed it, but you know what I mean? Yeah, smacks the mic down like that. Yeah, smack the mic down, right? And she would do stuff like that, right, in tantrums, right? But the first time she did that was in front of me and another coworker, and we had asked her beforehand to calm down. We were like, stop, what are you doing? Don't touch stuff over there. Calm down. We're just like, oh, you stop me, I'm gonna ruin this thing, You're like, no, calm down, stop doing that. And then she did it anyway in front of us to kind of make a point, and if you, we're gonna ruin it, right? And we were like, what's she doing? And then afterward, right, she had calmed down. We were like, why did you ruin all the stuff for her? What's wrong with you, right? And she's like, you didn't stop me. Kind of like the cake thing, right? You didn't tell me. Like, we told you to not do it. Well, you didn't stop me, right? So then we gotta get the person too, like, well, how do you mean stop you? Should we, like, physically stop you by punching you, like, grab you? You know what I mean? So that kind of hysterical angle on it, right, makes it even worse, because that's even dumber, right? But it's that kind of that feel to it, where you're like, okay, so how do I deal with this thing? How do I deal with this thing? We're talking about the physical stuff later because it's kind of interesting and all a side point here. But first of all, how do you deal with the accountability people, right? Well, I think this might be my take on life then, but I recommend it. Never apologize, always be strong. But seriously, the best way to deal with this juvenile defense right is to say F you, basically. Yeah, you should have to be super harsh on them. Yeah, treat them like toddlers and told them they're effing morons. Yeah, treat them like they wanna be treated, basically. Right? And I mean it seriously, because every time that I dealt with that in different companies, I always just be like, you're an effing moron and this is your fault, you know what I mean? Don't give them an inch. Don't and this is not like the whole apologizing, right? But it's kind of similar thing, right? Because they done something stupid, right? And they're trying to blame you for doing it, or they're trying to blame someone else, some other coworker or whatever. They're trying to blame either the CEO or this thing and that thing, right? Because I've been there too, right? When they have a coworker, he did something very, very stupid, and after he done that stupid shit, right, and I exposed him for it, he blamed the CEO, it wasn't even there, right? Oh, it's the CEO's fault, he didn't teach me the correct way to do it, you know what I mean? Like they would try to blame always someone else. Again, juvenile, right? Just give them 0 inch on that. Never give them an inch. When they do that, tell them that they're idiots and they're their fault, and you will 0 apologize. If they do something, they have to pay for it, whatever, yeah, it's their fault 100%. You all have to tell them that, no, that's complete bullshit. You're not a child. It's your fault. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna do it. Honestly, that's the way you maneuver that. Yeah, never give them an inch. Always tell them that you will see them as their fault. You know what I mean? They, of course, if they are in the mild court case, then if they have histrionic disorder, they will usually temper tantrum, right? That's why you trigger a tantrum usually, because they won't accept that, right? But that doesn't matter. If you have to just be very harsh on that. Never ever give them a thing. Don't if they say, oh, it's the CEO's fault, right? Don't agree and say, yeah, maybe he should have taught you better, right? Or, maybe he was busy, or whatever. Or maybe she was occupied, or maybe she's a bad teacher, or whatever. Never give them an inch. Or if they blame you, don't say that, oh, I could have been more direct, I guess. Or I could, no, just call them what they are, complete morons, right? Given the actual lying, of course, I mean, obviously, you might have cases where you actually did something wrong. I mean, obviously, this assumes that you have done nothing wrong and that it's actually them being crazy. I mean, I guess there are cases where you, as a person, actually did something wrong, taught someone the wrong thing, and then they did the wrong thing. But I mean, given that they are, I guess, said juvenile narcissists, yeah, you have to tell them that, no, you are wrong 100%, and that's just your fault, right? And like I said, if they blame you, say F you back to them. If they blame someone else, like the boss or whatever, tell them that that's bullshit, yeah. Like, just tell them that doesn't matter, it's your fault. You don't set it, just never set it. Even if they're right. I should say that way. Never. Just never give them an inch, okay? That's the first thing. Okay. Now, if you have the more complicated case, where they're even crazier, like they have, I said, hysteric and hysteric disorder. What I've seen then, right, this is a textbook disorder they have, is that when you don't give them an inch, like I said, when you don't give them anything like positive on that, when you tell them, no, I don't believe you, like you're wrong, whatever, they will have a temper tantrum, almost always, right? So it's very predictable, because that is kind of the key trigger for them, right? Because they will first try, with this disorder, they will first try to blame someone else, right? Usually you, then I'm talking to. But when that fails, they will, of course, temper tantrum to having to avoid having an actual discussion or debate, right? Because, of course, when they see that, oh, I can't trick him by, blaming the CEO, right? No, I can't, that doesn't work. Then I have to escape this debate somehow, right? So that's cause why they're so extremely juvenile, because they cannot have an actual debate about actual. And it goes deeper than just not having, like I said, it goes deeper than not just being able to handle criticism. They just can't handle the actual debate. It makes them emotionally unstable, like seriously. So they would then escape that, right? So they will throw stuff at you, scream at you, and run away. And what they usually do then is they will blame you. They will try to blame you, right, on an emotional level, right? You know what I mean? So every time I see the other coworkers, both men and women, when they go into the tantrum, they will then, of course, instead blame you for causing them pain, you know what I mean? Causing them emotional duress, right? And what you have to do then, of course, is the same thing, right? Because back you kind of go, vocify them over. You can deal in two different ways. you could either deal with to say that shut F up and just like you close the door to them and ignore them. Yeah, you can completely do that. That works too. If you're the boss or whatever, seriously, I do that. That's kind of the best way. If you're the manager, you can deal with basically by ignoring them. Yeah, it's like this crazy to leave. Yeah, I'm not living. I'll take this thing. You know what I mean, that's the best way. Ignore them completely. Distance yourself. Walk away from it. That's the best way to deal with it. But if you can't walk away, or if you get tricked by them, so they will temper tantrum, and then your boss, for whatever reason, agrees with them. So suddenly you have a HR meeting, right? Where they're blaming you for making them cry or something, you know what I mean? Then your best defense is also to cry. Always, yeah. Absolutely. Cry too and say, oh, no, she hurt my feelings. Here I come and she ruined my work. And then I tried to talk to her and she destroyed my stuff. They were screaming at me, and I cried the whole night and evening, and I can't sleep because she had a tantrum and threw stuff at me. So no, I can't sleep for 3 weeks, and yeah, you blame them instead. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I mean, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They want to play that game, right, where they will refuse to have an actual debate with you, and they're trying to temper and sway you, right? And like I said, they will always be very manipulative and try to use temper tantrum as he hurt me on an emotional level, right? Do the second thing. Tell them that they hurt you on an emotional level. They ruin your stuff, and also because again they are wrong, right? They were the one that actually caused an issue in the office, right? You know what I mean? So you are objectively correct, regardless, right? You know. But you use the same thing. You use the same medicine. You know, I can't sleep anymore because she bullies me. You know what I mean? Use the exact same thing, right? Because then the company will be in a positioning where you have two people saying that they're both bullying each other, right? But they look at like who's doing the actual work then, or ruining the work in the case. Obviously, the other person is ruining it, so they will lose, right? You know. So it's very easy to do that strategy. I've done it a few times. Again, never apologize. Just do that thing instead. But preferably, if you can, like I had in my last time with this temper tantrum co-worker, and I'm my co-manager, I just walk away from it. I just leave, right? I'm just like, oh, you're having a tantrum over there. Okay, I'm just gonna go out this room, close the door, and go back to my office, and or just go to my manager and say that this person is insane. They're having a tantrum over there. We should fire them. Okay, see you, and I go to my office. Yeah, like immediately. Yeah, I won't even engage into that. Yeah, that's the best solution. But it was easier if you have a little more, control over it, right? I don't mean control as in emotional. I mean control as in being a manager or senior manager or whatever. Yeah, if you have if you overrank them, so to speak, it's much easier because you say that I'm not going to talk to you in this state, so I'm just going to leave now, yeah. And you obviously just move away from it, yeah. So with this coworker I had then, like I said, I see more than one coworker with this kind of disorder, but the one I had the most. And females have it about 6% or so, yeah. Females are more likely to have this than males. It's a very clear neurotistic disorder, so it's much more common for females. But my last example, or my biggest extreme example with her I did all the time. Yeah. She would temper tantrum very, very easily for many things, and every time I just walked away, you know. I was just like, I'm just gonna leave. Yeah, I'm just gonna take the door and leave. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave the room. I see you. I'm just gonna leave. Yeah, you can see the scream. I'm just gonna leave. I'm not gonna look at you. I'm just gonna ignore you. I'm just gonna pretend you don't sit anymore. Yeah, whatever. I'm gonna leave. She's screaming again. Okay, guys, see you again. Yeah, that's what I did every time, right? And then she can't say anything about it because they can say, "Oh, I made it." Because she looks foolish, right? And she can't go to my manager, and say, "Oh no, he's mean to me. Oh, you temper tantrum for nothing. Yeah, well, that's your fault, right?" And you escape. What they want, right? People is a very attention-seeking disorder. It's also very common, and also again, one is a female disorder primarily. It's a very high rate of promiscuity, right? So women that have this disorder tend to have way more sex, right? They're very much like sexually active, right? Especially the younger, they have the F a lot, right? So it's very attention-seeking again. So when they have a tantrum, if you walk away from them, it is on the power, right? You can ignore them. Or pretend you don't see it. Yeah, or pretend you don't see them. That also is very effective sometimes, if you can do that. If you have all the people there, and they are having a tantrum, I've done that a few times, the tantrum being next to you, talking to this guy, tell them what they are, you just ignore them. And be like, yeah, we can buy this thing, and just like ignore them. They will make them go even angrier, right? But you just ignore them, yeah. They will make them lose on the power. It's kind of like if you don't exist in your brain, they disappear, you know. It's beautiful. You like block, like cancel, block, and things go. It works very, very well. Now, lastly, I will give you a good example here. how to also, of course, I'm kind of generalizing here, but one way to identify these people easily at the office, and this is not all, of course, but if you have these traits, again, like I mentioned, usually female, tantrums a lot, never take, always the juvenile, blaming you and so on, right? Another trait that you will usually find them, and if they have all of these traits, they probably have this disorder, is bad regulation of food and candy and so on. So they tend to be, fat or whatever, or less, attractive. Jigglypuff, yeah, tend to be that. But what I can see with my coworkers, and it's a typical coworker observation, right, is that after they have the tantrums, or generally just fought with, not just me, but with anyone, is they will go and buy candy. Yeah, a very common trait with my coworker that was very, very historic is she will go and buy candy every time afterwards. She will leave the office and come back with like candy. Then eat candy at her PC, right? And I had another female coworker before her, which was very fat. She was like, big as fat. And she would drink like 5-6 liter of cola every day. Like insane. Okay, the woman should probably died from fat. It was crazy. She drank so much energy drink and cola, but she literally drank like 5-6 liter, like a gallon of cola at least every day, like 1.5 gallon. It was insane. Same thing there, also very temper tantrumy, very angry, very, again, it kind of goes hand in hand, right? Bad emotional control, bad regulated control over body behavior. Right? So again, a lot of sex, but also obsession usually with like candy, soda. I said that I have this thing here, but imagine if I drank like 4 of these while I had this video. That would be the same thing. Yeah, if I drank like 4 or 5 of these during, I drink half this one. I have half left in there. Yeah, imagine if I drank like the whole 5 of those bottles while making this video. That'd be kind of like her, But seriously, a little bit also very, like I said, very bad regulation, very unstable emotions, very, very unstable, and also then constantly candy and soda drinks, all the time, and I've seen that a lot. And of course I am generalizing here, I'm not saying every woman, but I have had, of course, both male and female coworkers that will consume a lot of candy or drinks or whatever, right, at the office. But it tends to be women, that would regulate their emotions, I think, a lot more than that. Yeah, men tend to eat way less like that. It's much more common to see women just constantly eating candy at the office or ice cream, whatever. And I think that's one of the reasons why too you see a lot of women that are fat right, and eat lots of ice cream, because I think it's a much more common trait when a woman is bullied or she feels bad about herself or whatever, right, in high school, whatever, right, they go home and they buy the Ben & Jerry ice cream. That kind of stereotype. It is not, of course, for every woman, but it has some truth to it, right? Men aren't as into like that kind of regulative of unemotionals, where they have bad emotions to go eat a lot of candy or ice cream. That's a much more female trait. So that usually is a key indicator at the office. Not all of them, of course. I mean, again, this is like I'm generalizing, I keep saying, but almost all of my coworkers I had in my life, both men and women, if they eat a lot of candy or drink a lot of soda all the time at the office, then I would question how they're stable their emotions are, Like, I never do that at the office at all. I mean, I drink my energy drink or whatever, right? But I never brought, like, candy or something. I never once in my life have I bought, like, candy and had it at the office. I mean, that's really weird. Now, of course, I have eaten candy at my office because, of course, in the game industry, you might get candy from your company or whatever. Pretty commonly, especially now we have Christmas, right? So at Christmas, you get candy, right, at the company, right? The company constantly gives everyone candy at the desks, and everyone gets, like, some different stuff and different pastries and so on. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's typical. Pizzas or whatever. I mean, of course. But, I mean, not personally have I never actually bought, like, a pastry, like a bagel and at the office. I never done it. And also, for that matter, back in high school, many people would always go and drink sodas, right? So we would have math, whatever, right? Then they would go and, not all of them, many people would buy a soda, right? Coke or whatever, between the lessons. I never did that. I never drank sodas, stuff like that, until I was like 20. So all the fat come later. No, but I never did it, and I never did this. I don't need that to focus on school. So. No, I like drinking energy drinks. I like taste, and I hate coffee. So I hate taste of coffee, so yeah. So I like that, but yeah, I can never get that. But it's about regulating your body, you know. So it's a good, but also it's a good indicator for a lot of things. Like I said earlier in the video, right? This is a very typical tricks, and seeing someone that has bad food regulations it's a good way to indicate a lot of stuff, right? You know. For example, I only eat once a day, right? Personally, I only eat once a day usually. Like now when I'm home and so on, like even with the family and so on, I only eat once a day, right? So I make like one bigger portion, so I can eat it twice then, but it takes a long time to eat. But no, but I eat once a day usually. Today we were at a buffet place earlier today in the family, so I ate there, and it's, you know, that's kind of enough for me for one day, right? Yeah. But anyway, so food, it's a good indicator. Look for that. Another person now, I gotta go on a list now of famous insane people I met in my life now, but another person that I worked with, was very funny. He was a mythomaniac crazy person, okay? He would always be the best and the worst at everything. And this will be a short example, but how did that co-worker? Well, what he did, right, was no matter what you said, he was always better, right? He was always better. So if you said, oh, I can run, 100 meter in 10, I don't know, seconds, he'd be like, I can do it in 7. You know what I mean? He was always like that. He was always like that, right? So I pick up on that pretty easily. And these people are very easy to actually manipulate, or you call it, because they basically make their own trap, right? So I used to make fun of him all the time with that. So he would say, like, whatever you said, he would always have to overcome it, right? But what I noticed is a very common trait for mythomaniac people, and usually are, of course, narcissists as well. Then. So some kind of, anti-person, sorry, yeah. What they usually do is that they also have to be worse at everyone else, which is a weird trait, right? So, for example, what I mean is that you're gonna say that, oh, I'm so tired, man. I only slept like 2 hours last night. I need to drink my energy drink. I need to get some sippy. I need to get some coffee. You know, like you do that, right? And that guy would be like, "Well, I only slept 1 hour. I only did 1 hour, bro. I only you know what I mean? Like that kind of guy, right, you know. That to me is much more indication of that mytho guy than just being like, oh, I'm running faster, I'm stronger, I'm better. No, that guy especially, which are when you are saying, oh shit, I am so tired, I haven't slept at all, and the other guy is like, I slept even less. You know what I mean? Then you know you're dealing with those megalomaniac guys mythoing everything, right? But you beat them very easily, okay? So when they do that, you do the exact same thing. You just make it worse, you know. Then I say like, well, I slept 0 hours actually, and the guy guy's like, well, I slept minus 1 hour. You're like, what's that mean? So seriously, yeah. So I had a coworker like that, right? And every time I saw him coming in with like, oh, I did this thing worse, I would always be like, oh yeah, my stomach pain is so high, man. Yesterday I did this thing and that thing, and now I'm puking blood for like 3 hours. He's like, I've been puking blood for 5 hours. And then everyone is like, listening to it, well, you put it dead then. No. You know, I mean, it's like, I would always just like make it way worse for him. And he would look into it every time, and everyone would laugh at him because he would say stuff that was impossible, right, to, of course, actually survive, right? I would say, oh, I haven't eaten in 3 weeks. He's like, I haven't eaten in 4 weeks. You know what I mean? Almost like that, yeah. And then, of course, after done that 10, 20 times, he was completely be afraid of me in my surrounding, right? Because I did that thing, and also, of course, I did the other two. I kind of outwalk him, out-myth him, right? So, of course, right? So, if I heard him with some other guy, and the other guy is like, oh, I only slept 2 hours, he would be like, oh, I slept 1 hour. Then I would come and say, I slept 0 hours, 0. Then I would run in there and be like, 0! Like, and annoy him, that I would overcome him, right? So then he would have to come back to me, but I slept -1 again, yeah. Which he couldn't do, right? So I just completely dismantled him, right? I done it more than once in my life, but with this guy, I did it all the time because it was super funny. He was so obsessed with it. But it works every time, man. You force him in the corner and I think, like I said, I think it's very, very obvious when they're trying to also be worse than you, yeah. Not only, because I mean, it makes more sense, right? Of course, when someone is like, well, I am this strong, and the other guy is like, well, I am stronger, right? Like, that makes more sense than when someone saying, "Oh, I'm so weak and fragile." Well, I am weaker. Like that's like why do you want to be weaker for, right? So when they have that like knee-jerk reaction of always having to be sicker and weaker and more, then you know what you're dealing with. But like I said, this guy did both directions, of course. If you're only being constantly weaker, then it's some kind of Münchhausen, like that's some kind of victim card more, right? If you only do weaker. So you've probably heard about Münchhausen by proxy, right? Which is like you make your kid sick or whatever. But of course, Münchhausen is just the basic thing, right? Which is you pretend yourself you're sick. But it's a very different thing. So I'm not talking about that, of course. That's a person that is like pretending, to actually be sick, right? They're not trying to like outdo you. They're just trying to like get sympathy and empathy, right? For being like, oh no, I got cancer again. I have testicular cancer 3 times now. Yeah, I lost both I got my third finger has this cancer now. They're just trying to like have that victim card, right? That's a very different thing, and those people are extremely rare for that matter. But that's not the TV as well, though, right? But of course, those people are interesting because those are very, very sick individuals. But you deal with them in the same thing there. You deal with them by just tracking what they actually say, right? You deal with them by saying that, weren't your grandma sick last time too? So what you find in the office when it comes to Münchhausen people, it's not really necessarily like, oh, I got cancer again, because that's kind of obvious eventually they're lying, right? What they people tend to do is they will lie about their family, right? So they will say like, my mom is sick, it's like a Homer thing, yeah. The next week it's like, my grandma is sick this week. And then you're like, wasn't she sick last week? No, that was my mom. You're like, no, I think it was your grandma. You know what I mean? They will kind of build it up, and you can kind of be like, I think your grandma has died 3 times now. So those people usually kind of fall into that side, right? Because they can't make themselves too sick, then they can't work. So they would usually try to get sympathy by lying about sick. So it's a little bit proxy, I suppose, but not really. Proxy is still they actually hurt the person, right? So I wouldn't say the same thing. And like I said, though, real hardcore Münchhausen people, you won't find them in the office because they will have to pretend to be dying, so they can't work really. Maybe you can find them rarely if they have like a sloping down in how sick they are. But of course, if they're doing that, some of them, the really hardcore ones, they even poison themselves, It's like the proxy one poisoning our children. The one that themselves will drink poison out to get sick, So they won't be able to work, right? So you won't find those people in the most extreme cases, but you certainly find the kind of in the middle ground where they will be usually pretending to be sick or whatever, right? To get sympathy and to work less, right? And usually try to stay on the radar. And also usually lie about their family members more than once, right? So I digress. I think it's a kind of rare thing, but I've seen it a few times where I'm very aware. I had one boss. Actually, he was one of the bosses of the 4 FE guys, the first company in Sweden, and he definitely had that thing where he was like a drug addict, something like that. He would go to drug bands and get crazy, and he would call in sick all the time. Right? So he basically never came to the office, and he was just like, "Oh no, I'm sick," and everyone was like, "Yeah, he's not sick. He's like this thing." Right? And when I was in the office, he would pretend to be sick so he could leave, but he actually wanted to go and get high or something or drink something. So he was just always faking his illness so he could just leave, right? So it was more like that, but that's more like an addict, right? Trying to hide their addiction rather than prep. Well, the issue itself, of course, but yeah, very obvious though. No one fell for it. No one fell for it. No one fell for that, guys. Insanity. That was very obvious. Gotta regulate my Florida love, Anyway. Now comes the hard one. Autistic Asperger people. No, but seriously, so this is maybe the most common person you will meet in the IT industry except the Vogue, right, So you have the Vogue people, they tend to be maybe 20%, 30%, right? They're a much bigger percentage than in the normal jobs, right? Which is why they're so clearly a big thing in the industry. But the second biggest group is clearly the autistic spectrum people, right? Basically, every coder ever, goddamn autistic weird people. But seriously, right? A lot of coders have autism, like straight up. I'm not making a joke, I can't sit out laughing, but it is a true thing, right? The meme, the stereotype of coder guys just being like sitting in the corner, like it's very, very true. I mean, obviously, for everyone, but a lot of them are like that, right? So, the thing is that being autistic is a spectrum, right? And it depends on, it's a bad term in a way, just like OSPD is a bad term because you have different kind of autism, right? Of course, so it's a bad term, and it annoys me, of course, as a person working with this stuff. But basically, right, a classic stereotype of the autistic developer is that they love coding, they love numbers, they love math, and so on. This, of course, isn't every autist, right? But they do exist, and there are many of them. And yes, they do tend to be good coders, right? So I worked at a company where the CTO had Asperger's, like actual, like, look, you know, he had that term isn't used so much these days. Now it's called autism something in USA. But in Sweden, this is Sweden, we use still the Asperger term. At least back in the days, this is 10 years ago, whatever. So he had Asperger's, and he really had it, like, you know, like actually had it, you know, how say it, doctor, you know, stamp approved, so to speak, yeah. It wasn't just something he said he had it, you know, he had it proven, and he was extremely weird in that sense. So it was very obvious. He acted very, very irrationally in some things, right? But he also was an insanely good coder and tech guy, right? So he really had kind of that, you know, the savant, autism savant thing, where he was like very strange person, very introverted, very hard to deal with in so many aspects, but he was a brilliant coder, right? He was very much that 10 out of 10 coder guy, 0 out of 10 social skills, incredible awkward person, but Jesus Christ, could he have code, right? Then the lead programmer, so the second highest tech guy, was the same thing. So he also had that. He was like 9 out of 10 autistic with 9 out of 10 skills in coding. So we had 2 of those, and it was very fun. And the stuff really worked. Yeah, of course it was hell working with them, but at least he could code. Yeah, at least he could get stuff working. But it was, of course, very annoying. So that, like, stereotype of the autistic savant coder guy, again, I'm not saying every coder, but it has a lot of merit to it. Like it is a high percentage of coders that are like that. And like I said earlier in the video, you find them at Google and Microsoft, so you find them outside the gaming industry. Right? There's fewer of them, but you find them there as well, right? And usually, you know, the best coder is seriously usually an autistic guy. It's the best coder, right? To be honest here, because it really gives them a benefit, right? Like I said, there are different kind of spectrum, but part of that spectrum makes a lot of people be very, very, you know, number driven. They have good memories of numbers. They're very good with, like, remembering the stack, basically. So, and they're very logically based usually, right? They're very, very unemotional, logically people. So they're very good at code, good at math, you know, good engineers, right? So they tend to be, like, extremely good engineers, generally speaking. And also, this is a very male thing, right? So the part of the brain that makes you like this kind of typical autistic, like, hardwired logical brains, is part of the male brain, right? So that's also why you almost never like, find females. That is basically every, not always, right? But it's something like extreme, like, I don't think we have data on this exactly, but it's something very extreme, like 98 point something percentage of, like, engineer autistic, so to speak, people that are extremely good at engineering and are kind of functional society members, they are all men, yeah, like 1-2% are females. It's a very, very male part of the brain because of that. So they are, you know, they're very brilliant. They usually have very high IQ, right? They have very, very high IQ. So you go again at patterns and numbers, but they're terrible at everything else, right? They have, like, no skills whatsoever outside life, you know. And they tend to be that, how say it? They tend to be this, like, kind of house thing, right? They tend to be that kind of, like, Dr. Reed, maybe, yeah, it's Criminal Minds. They tend to be that kind of TV character, right? That is super smart, but can't boil an egg kind of thing, right? Yeah. It's that kind of, like, genius character, right? So to speak, in movies, which I hate. But certainly, to some extent, they exist. And they tend to be coders and developers, right, in the game industry. They're almost never designers, almost never. Artists, almost never, right? Artistic is more, you know, you're gonna have a flair for creativity. And they usually have zero creativity. They're very robotic, right, to be fair. I'm not saying it to be mean, I'm just trying to be I'm a behavior scientist. I'm saying this from a statistical, you know. I'm trying to be scientific here, but they're quite robotic, so they tend to be bad at, like creative drawings or whatever, right? And design. Even the math, they don't tend to be actually interesting enough. They tend to be really bad when it comes to certain maths. I have seen, at least in my experience, these people, and of course I'm generalizing here, but they tend to be bad at over map that covers macro map. Okay, they tend to be bad at like economical math, which is weird, but they are. They tend to be very good at like very specific issues, right, in a code or whatever. They're usually very bad at like the bigger picture thing. So they aren't good at game designers because they don't understand, like how all these different characters interact. They're very good at like looking at one character's math, perhaps one stats, but they're bad at understanding the global scope of stuff like that. And they're not very good at the market, trader market, because they're not good at understanding how different stocks affect each other actually. Usually, yeah, I see very few savant people that are good at the stock market. It's not the same thing really. Yeah, it's kind of different kind of feel to it. It's a different kind of mathematical skill. These people are very like good at one thing, very streamlined. They're not good at the whole like combination of different markets. But anyway, I digress. How do you deal with them? Because they certainly are the most common person you meet after the Vokis, I suppose. After the normal person. I mean, to be fair, the normal person is the most person you meet. The average individual, with mid skills, that isn't crazy left leaning, is the most common person. There might be 30% or something. The guy that is like normies, which I am not for the better. I'm obviously better than them. But seriously, kind of like the average mid person that has like average skills and not too crazy opinions, they're probably like 30%. And Vokis are probably 20%. And these Spectre people are also probably 20%, roughly speaking. And I am summarizing them now from different kind of autism. So it's probably less 20%, but I mean, it's like they say you have 3 different, spectrums, right? And they are together, they're roughly 20% then. But yeah, they're different kind of disabilities basically. But anyway, long kind of math here. How do you deal with them then, right? So you're gonna meet people a lot, right? And this is actually something you have to get used to if you wanna be a producer or something like that. Because I won't be kidding, guys. If you're a producer in the game industry, you will almost always have one of your coders per team, right? So in the game industry, when you have different teams, right, of different roles and so forth, you can be a scrum master, you can do this thing and so on from a productional standpoint, right? But in a productional standpoint, then you have different teams, and a team usually consists of like basically a lot of developers and maybe one designer. So you have like a scrum team of like 9 people. So you have like one designer, maybe like 7 developers, and then maybe one artist or maybe one like QA or something. You have like a QA probably developer probably. So something like that, right? So you only have one designer per team, and usually even less than that. You can have like 5 scrum teams and one designer jumps between them, right? Because the designer doesn't really work like that, right? But you have to kind of understand. So being a game designer, you have to usually jump between the different scrum teams if you're working in scrum or something like that, agile, and you will have to understand what each team is doing, right? So your job as a designer is to both design stuff and then help them to, actually realize that, right? So usually you have to understand that, okay, Scrum Team A, Alpha Team, they are working with the network, okay? So I have to talk with them about network, how should blah, blah. Then I go to the B Team, and B Team, Beta Team, they are working on the multiplayer, okay? C Team is working on a quest line. D Team is working on the boss fights, right? So you have to be able to kind of maneuver that and have all the papers with you and know who's talked to and where they are in their structure and their pipeline and so on. So being a game designer usually means you have to run around everything and you have to know all things you're doing, and it's much more like a productional thing. Usually you become like a half producer, right? And you usually know a lot more than the developers usually only know their part, right? Like I am doing the in that network, and they don't know what others are doing basically. Not at least from a detail level. So you run that, right? But when you then work in the industry, in your Scrum team, or whatever you have, your Kanban team, but your Agile team, so be roughly these people. In your team, you're gonna have at least one of these, like artistic coding guys, like seriously. Yeah, because it's like 7, 6, 7, yeah, in a smaller team, it's like, it's like 1 in 5, right? So you can have more than 5 developers in every team, basically. Because usually what you have, the course, the boss are developers, right? Yeah. So you're gonna have a bunch of developers, and in that bunch, you will have at least one of these people. Anyway, long story short, the point is that you will always interact, basically, with these, like, kind of weird spectre people. More or less. But anyway, so how do you do it then? There are kind of ways to do it, but the first thing I think it's very important to understand when you're working with these like autistic spectrum people is to take nothing personally, okay? Because these people usually have no filter, okay? They have a very hard time controlling the filter. It's a little bit Sheldon Cooper-like. You just kind of say whatever they think in the brain, right? You say, I come to the brain, and like me, I'm thinking 10 minutes per word, you know, they just gotta throw it out, you know? And that means that they will be very insulting, right? So I've seen this in all my years, from college and different companies, where these people tend to insult people a lot. Not on purpose, but a lot. So they might be talking to, this CTO is talking to one of the coders, and he says like, oh, this code is effing shit, right? Like he just said it in the word. He's just like, yeah, this thing works, and then this thing, and he reads the notes. Well, that code was effing terrible, and he keeps doing this on his phone thing, kind of like, just, it says it like that, right? Because they have no filter usually. That's usually the biggest indicator of this behavior. They will just say stuff without any thinking of the actual repercussion of what they're saying. So they just blurp it out. They do this frog in their mouth all the time, right? So you can't really take it personally, even if to some extent actually might be what they believe in, because they also don't censor the word. So when a normal person, so to speak, the average person might have said, oh, this is pretty terrible, but they just say this is effing shit, the worst I've seen in my life. They kind of go the, like TV, almost fake thing, but that's kind of how they speak, right? So they will be very, very overkill in their critique of people. But I think it's more almost funny that most of these people, they will critique people, not in their face. It's more like they will just talk about it so broadly. They will say bad stuff people all the time, without really directing it at them. They just can't filter in the brain. So they will like look at the code, or they look at the game and say, yeah, yesterday we played this new game. It's called Duty of Code. It was effing terrible. They hasn't made it or idiots. They will just blurp it out exactly how they feel, right? Which is sometimes refreshing, but most of the time it's like, you probably shouldn't be that honest, right? So that's kind of how it works. They won't necessarily just be like insulting them in their face, but they just kind of don't censor what they think, right? And they just blurp out stuff all the time. So the first thing is you can't be emotional about that, but also, generally speaking, even if you should be emotional about it, you shouldn't be surprised by it, because you should know that these people are used, they don't have any filter, they just say stuff and think about it, just how it is. For example, in my last video, I thought about this Aaron guy, right? So we had a new co-worker. His name was kind of like in that Keel and Peele sketch, where his name is Aaron, but he's like, Aaron, you know. However, it was opposite. His name was spelled A-A-Aaron, right? So basically, when we read it, we were like, hey, Aaron? Is his name actually Aaron? Like, you know what I mean? So we were actually like, yeah, we all called him Aaron, right? Until we read how he spelled his name. Like, why do you spell it that way? Like, why do you spell it like Aaron, right? But what happened, the story was then that he was gonna start his first day at the office, right? And immediately the lead programmer, I mentioned this guy earlier than one of the autistic guy, clearly. He mentioned and I knew it too, so before he even talked to him, I told him that do not comment that his name spells Aaron. I'm not gonna do that. Like, promise me you won't. We have way too many HR complain on you every time that you always do this stuff, right? He's like, but I'm not gonna do it. I have self-control. I was like, no, you don't. Like, yes, I do. Okay, I was like, prove it to me then. Talk to this guy without insulting him that his name is spelled Aaron. Well, I will. And then he goes over to him, guy, and he's like, hey, Aaron, your name is stupid, and your parents are effing stupid, and so forth. Literally. Like a minute before he went over to this guy, telling him that him and his parents are effing stupid, he had promised me that he was not going to do that, that he have self-control and not do it. But he couldn't do it. Right? So he went over them, he insults them, him and his parents, and afterward I'm like, you told me you wouldn't do it, you promised me you wouldn't do it. I don't know. I couldn't hold. I had to say. Someone had to say it. You know what I mean? I'm like, no. Like, and every time with this guy, every time. And that's why I mean the reason, right, that I, as lead designer, his lead programmer, right, the reason that I'm over at his office, like, please do not insult the new guy we just hired immediately for his name, okay? I know he spelled his name weird. Yeah, he's stupid, but yeah, I agree with you. But every time this happens, the last time, I am over there for 2 years, you know, every time we got a new hire or something, and if there's something weird with your name, you will comment on it, and you always make them sad, okay? I don't care. I mean, I know you don't care, but just don't do it. Like, don't do it. Every time you do that, it's gonna be a historic issue. Don't do it, okay? Do not insult the new guy that we just hired his name on his first day, okay? Just pretend you didn't see it. Like, you know, pretend, I promise, you know, and then, yeah. So, I mean, the reason I even came to that guy, because he does this over and over again, right? And also, because pronounce it right, he's doing it in front of everyone. This is the new guy, new hire, right? So the CEO is there, HR manager is there. You know what I mean? Everyone is basically there, right? The managers and so forth. Everyone is, because the guy started, right? This guy, hey, hello, you know, welcome to the office, welcome to your new, you know, work, you know. And this guy is like, welcome. Why is your name so stupid for? Effing parasite? You're like, you know. And everyone is there, right? The HR, CEO, CTO, CEO is there. And everyone is like, oh no, it's gonna sue us, you know. Everyone is like, oh no, shut up, you know, God, happened again. He promised me he wouldn't do it, you know. But like I said, it's so common, right? That it's also predictable, right? So you have to, in a way, the way this person, right, is hide that immediately. I will go over to the new guy. I go over to Aaron, and I also say, "Hey, Aaron!" No, I just go, yes. That would be funny though. If I was like, "Hey, Aaron, stupid," if I just agree with him, that would be funny. No, I will go over to Aaron, and I was like, "Hey, Aaron, this guy is an effing moron. Welcome to the game industry. This is how it is." You know, he's like, yeah, I guess, yeah, like. Yeah, I just went over him, and this guy's a moron, okay? And I just told him immediately, you gotta get used to this guy saying dumb stuff all the time. His IQ is like 0, okay? Except coding. Then it's like 1 billion IQ, okay? So you just ignore him. You just ignore him. He's a weird troglodyte that we can't get rid of. Yeah, you just ignore him, okay? Like, I just went over immediately and like, yeah, ignore him. Yeah, he's just crazy, right? That's the way he did with it too. You tell him that, this guy's insane, okay? Just whatever. Because the thing is that, to some extent, right, they might sound mean, but, you know, this, like, really weird, dysfunctional person, right, he also, this will come back to, right, a way to deal with these people, like this guy down, is that he definitely likes you when you are direct to him, right, you know. So even if it might sound insulting, this guy's crazy. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm crazy. You know what I mean? He's an effing idiot. Yeah. Like, he kind of like does that thing, right? So he actually kind of likes it when you are directly telling him, right? And in that situation, because I told him before, promise me that you are not going to insult the new guy. I promise, that immediately face it, right? And I'm like, you promised me, you idiot, you wouldn't do it. I'm an idiot. Yeah, you're an idiot. Yeah, I am. So he kind of like, you know, he kind of accepts it, right, being called an idiot because he failed, right, you know. So the solution usually is that, first of all, don't take anything they say at face value because you don't have any filter. You can't just blurb out words. You just ignore it most of the time. Secondly, is that you have to be very, very direct with them. You should be extremely direct. Tell them exactly what you mean. Don't sugarcoat anything. You have to talk to them like how they talk, right? So basically, if you want them to say X thing, tell them exactly X thing. You can't just tell them some kind of metaphor or analogy. You have to tell them exactly. You can't give them like a visual picture of it. You have to just tell them exactly what you mean. Be very, very, very direct with them. Generally, if they hurt your feelings, tell them that. If they hurt, usually it's like hurt your order. Usually, it's for me, it's like you hurt that guy's feeling. You have to tell them what it did to other people, right? You have to tell them how they're mean to other people all the time. Yeah, mostly, and it's very, very strange. But they tend to appreciate when you are very direct with them, right? So if they say something dumb to me, like the CTO, he was dumb to me, I will use commands say, don't say that word. That word is, you know, not proper anymore. Okay, yeah, sorry, yeah. Really, try not to do it. I'll be pissing him. No, but seriously, that don't people. But that's kind of what it's sad too, right? I think it's put on sad too. I said in my last video, right? When you're having these people, right, that have these like autistic mixture of just no social skills ever, right? No friends, no girlfriend in their life ever. I mean, never, right? They actually do need not to be cancelled, but they actually will use a bunch of really weird words and weird sentences and weird flow, how they speak. It's kind of weird, so usually, and they actually kind of need you to be a little bit of a Karen and be like, we don't use the word bastard anymore, okay? That is not okay. You're gonna have big trouble. Don't use the N-word, please. You know, like, but actually, and I mean it not jokingly, but seriously, these are the people we actually have to be like, you know, freedom of speech is great, but don't call the new black guy the N-word, okay? Oh, but he is the N-word. I'm like, yeah, but like, I mean, okay, are you censoring me? Like, well, yes, because, you know, it's gonna be a lot of trouble if you keep calling the new black guy the N-word. Don't call him Eric, just call him Eric, okay? But he's the N and Eric. I'm just like, yeah, yes. Technically that is true, but, you know, like, honestly, I've had this discussion, which is crazy, but seriously, some of these people, they're so, you know, they're so robotic, etc. So they will literally be like, but he's Black Eric. Well, it's better if you call him Black Eric, but you know what I mean? It's kind of like the scene in Captain America TV show, yeah, with Falcon, when Sam has turned into Captain America. It's kind of like, you just call me the Falcon or call me Captain America. Don't call me the Black Falcon or Black Captain America. You just call me Captain America, right? I'm not Black Captain America. I'm not Black Falcon. I'm just Falcon, yeah. It's kind of like that, Steve. It's like, don't call me Black Falcon. I'm just the Falcon, right? There's no White Falcon, you know what I mean? Stop that, yeah. It's kind of like that feel to it. But yeah, but you could just call Eric. You don't have to call him Black Eric. Oh, you said I should call N Eric. Oh, that's even worse if you use that word. Just use... Fine, call him Black Eric. It's kind of like, I guess that's better than the other example you just gave me. So, I think that, sounds like I'm joking probably, but no. I had that discussion more than once, right, people. And not just of course that word, obviously not. But I mean more like in the contextual of other countries too, like Sweden, they have the B word in Sweden, right? Which I'm not gonna say it now, but if you're Sweden, I'm talking about. So I had coworkers in Sweden that used the B word, right? And I have the even better one, the SN word. If you know what that is, don't even comment below. But I had one coworker, he always kept using the SN word. That's probably people don't even know what it is. But it's like an insult that is very rare in Sweden, but it's an incredibly harsh insult. It's an insult. It's like 10 out of 10 insult, okay? It is like 10 out of 10. This would definitely get in the HR meeting, yeah. And he used it all the time against people when they worked in the office. He not on their face, right? But he would be like, "Oh yeah, that guy, that SN Eric," you know, he'd be like that all the time. I'm like, "Don't say that word. Oh, you carrying me? You censoring me?" It's like, well, I mean, like that word is really, yeah, that is like that S word is like super bad. You can't call people that. That's like super mean. Like you have to have a little bit of a, you know. And that's what I said in the last video, right? I come back to it now, but I hope you guys have me here. Is that how it's like... what can I say? It does come back to that a little bit, right? The whole issue they have with social skills, right? And I mean a little bit, largely, because I mean... I am obviously very, you know, open, freedom of speech, whatever, you know, liberal, open ideas, democracy, right? But... end of the day, right? When you are working... with people, or generally speaking, with new people, that have this very, very lacking understanding, right, of society. Right? You can summarize these people as having, these spectrum people usually, as just having no understanding of rules of society and rules of encounter between people, so to speak. Right? They don't understand those rules, you know what I mean? Like the guys, like, hey, Rob, stupid name, stupid parents, you know, like, stop that, you know. I mean, he don't understand the rules, or he refuses to follow kind of normal social boundaries, right? So, without still being, you know, freedom of speech guy and all this stuff, it's not like I think he can go to jail, right? It's not illegal to say that someone's parents are stupid, right? They can do what they want to, right? But, let's say what I mean, right? You do feel a little bit like a Karen against these people, because you get into a positioning where you're like, I mean, I don't want to, like, lecture them about, like, you know, what they can say and can't say. I don't want to limit their freedom of speech. But at the same time, it's like, this is stupid. You don't have to call this person stupid for stream method. You don't have to keep using this S insult all the time about your coworkers. Like, why are you doing that for? It actually honestly makes me feel uncomfortable. If I have to be genuine here, yeah, I'm woke. I think they got me, guys. They got me. My wokeness goes up me. It actually makes me feel uncomfortable to use that word. No, but seriously, I had a coworker that he kept using this like absolute 10 out of 10 insults, right, in Swedish language constantly about his co-workers, right? They weren't there, you know, like if they went out for lunch or whatever. And I'm just like, that seems really weird, man. That seems like really weird, okay? Like, it doesn't make, like, stop doing that, because that seems really, yeah, like, sometimes, you know, it's like, oh, this and this, like, no, it seems, like, why do you say that word all the time for? Yeah, it actually seems really weird. Like, that actually seems very improper, and it just makes me actually feel a little bit uncomfortable. So, okay, maybe you shouldn't say that all the time, like 10 times per day, you know. It's like, makes me question your sanity, right? I mean, and that's what I said earlier too, right? You know, in my previous video, I haven't been there yet, this video. But you also, of course, have, you know, the far right, right? You have the incel or whatever, right? And this guy I'm talking about, he's an incel, right? Obviously. And they keep using like really weird incel language, and you're like, oh my god, stop this. You know what I mean? That's what I feel too, right? We have to talk about, let's get the incels, right? Okay, let's talk about incels. Oh god. Oh god, I hate my life. So, okay. So, of course, you have incels too, right? And the guy I'm referring to, he's obviously, he's an incel. He's actually literally an incel. And I feel sorry for him saying that, because, I'm not going to say his name now, of course, but he's an actual, objectively incel. I mean, what actually the word means, right? Like, you know, involuntary celibacy. Because, honestly, I feel sorry for this guy, because, in the sense that, you know, he's been on dates or whatever, Tinder and so forth, right? And he never got some, right? So he's like, you know, he's a V, right, so to speak, an actual lad in his like mid-30s, 40s or whatever, right? And he's never getting any action, right? And honestly, he's not like that bad when it comes to appearance and so on. So it's obviously his personality, like, obviously, right? But to some extent, I told him, I do feel a little sad for him, because it's a little bit like, well, maybe if you stopped saying this kind of language all the time, it would be better for you, you know what I mean? I'm like, maybe if you stopped calling every woman that word, it would be easier to get laid. You get my point? Yeah, like, maybe that's what you're failing. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, maybe just stop doing that. But stuff like that, right? But honestly, overall, I feel sorry for that, honestly, because I think people like him are mostly shaped by their environment of life, right? You know, like having failed so many times with women, generally speaking, you know, makes them hate him and so on, right? You know, you're gonna get into that hatred, right? But I have actually a good example of that, which I think is very interesting. So I was interviewing this guy 2 years ago. And he's a very hardcore incel. But now we're talking like criminal, we're talking like ER here. So now we go into basically more like really, really like dangerous people here. This is my coworker, this is something else, this is very, very dangerous. But basically this guy then, he had an interesting past, I felt. So basically, he's a black guy from California. And he got this like really weird thing where he really, really hated like Japanese women or Asian women in general, you know, the yellow fever, but in reverse, right? And he's an incel, speaking, but he is like very much, especially against East Asian. Kind of like Ed Rodgers, so interesting in that sense. But when I interviewed him, I got to question that whole thing, because he's into like manga and anime, he likes Japanese culture, right? So I'm like, how do you explain that you seem to really hate Asian women, but you also, you know, seem to be only really into Asian culture, right, from a hobby standpoint? It seems that, if I understand you correctly, the only thing you do basically for like a free time is playing Japanese games and watching anime. So how can you hate Japanese people, especially women, then, but also generally Japanese? It seems to be strange, right? Like it should be like a really weird misfit there. The way he explained it to me, after I heard explanation, when I put the bits together, it's kind of obvious. But of course, it was that he had basically had yellow fever, right? Started dating a Japanese girl when he was 16. She was 16, like a classmate, dated for like a year, and she broke up with him, whatever, right? And then he's been trying in college to basically, since then in college, try to date different like Asian Americans, I guess, right? Chinese, Japanese, Korean, whatever, right? In college, and never managed to get laid or whatever. Never managed to get anyone. And now he's like 25 or whatever, right? Like little after college. And now he hates them all, yeah. And now it's like, I hate them all, terrible people, blah, blah, blah. And I'm obviously summarizing this very, very briefly now. I don't want to derail it too much here, but this is more in depth, so to speak. But basically, right, in this short summary here then, is that he had always had the yellow fever, right, so to speak, and then he has failed with that, right, his whole, like, adult life, and then, of course, now he's like, oh, they all hate me, and they hate black people, and this stuff, and so, blah, blah, so, yeah, so he was like, he blamed usually, what he would say is that if he was white, then he would get laid, or he was Japanese, they wouldn't lay with him because he's black, you know, there would be his excuse to be like, oh, I'm black, so they wouldn't never, you know, be with me. That would be his excuse. But my point is that he kind of went into that classic rabbit hole right after being, you know, turned down enough times, right? He kind of lost all hope to get an Asian ship, basically, right? And now he's like, I hate them all instead. So it was kind of natural, right? I don't think that every person in this demographic is created like that, but his creation, I think, was very streamlined. But I was like, oh yeah, now it makes sense. But it also made him a really weird person because he still only had Japanese anime and gaming as a hobby. So he still only played their stuff, yeah. And he was like not fluent in Japanese, but he spoke pretty good Japanese and so on too. So he's like a really weird character. You're like, but you're almost fluent in Japanese, speak Japanese and all this stuff, you know. And yeah, very weird. I think it was very weird. It was very weird. But anyway, well, there's too much details. But that's a common, of course. I bring it up because obviously my coworker is a similar person. Right? I think it's like a common trope. How did we get here? Because my coworker was the same thing, right? I felt sad for him, honestly, because I saw him, you know, paying for all the dating sites and all the stuff, right, and apps and so on. And he would go on like dates all the time, like literally. I don't know how he did in that sense. He would get like a lot of dates on Tinder or whatever, but he would never actually, you know, score, right? So he would only get no one would ever get further than the first date with him. Yeah, basically, he would fail like 50 first dates, you know, in a few years. It was impressively bad and good, right? Because he actually got like a lot of numbers behind him, so to speak, as the first dates, but never further. And then we go into this like classic, yeah. But how the dividend then? Well, I mean, I think that honestly makes it interesting too. And I think this is what is crazy. People in the gaming especially is weird, right? Because you have a mixture of these like, oh my god, these people are so insane in all directions then, and they work with the leftists and they have the far rightists, and I still think this is a very game industry unique issue, right? Because in other companies, and I just want to point out here, right? In other industries, it also might happen, but not in these extreme ways, because it goes back to what I said in my last video, right? That because these like misfit managers, right? These older people that used to be like, oh, I was bullied and this thing, and no, I'm here and blah blah. They just can't deal with, like I said, the religious fanatics or the left leaning, but also the far right either, right? But they just like, oh, I open for everyone kind of thing, right? So they just let them all in, because normally you would be like, well, actually, I don't want to have those together because they're gonna fight all the time. I don't want to have them in the same company, right? This is just stupid. Yeah, they're gonna have this constant disagreements, right? Which would be very mean to them. They're gonna have constant hatred for each other, so they create like an explosive barrel, right? It's stupid in that sense. It really is. But the next issue is that they also never fire them, right? They also like, because for example, then the coworker I had that is like, oh, stupid name, and he does it all the time, right? But he never gets fired because they're like, oh, but he can't help himself. This company is for everyone, you know what I mean? So they never fire him, right? He gets like reprimanded, like don't do it again, and he just does, yeah. So he never learns either. That's why it's so terrible too, right? Because same thing with my incel guy now. Then he does dumb shit too, right? Say dumb stuff like me. I'm trying to be like, don't say that word. It's stupid, you know. But if I go to the HR with that or the manager with that, they don't gonna fix it right because they're like, she's special, you know. Yes, everyone is very special in this company, aren't they? You know, and they never have to like learn to improve in either direction. So they're both staying crazy, right, on the left and the right side. But anyway, how do you deal with people then? I found them actually easy to deal with. I think you have to kind of correct them on their dumb stuff, right? And they usually are very conspiracy driven, but you will agree with them on the general factual notes, right? And then just ignore them. No, but there is a divot, I think, for me, then coming from not liking the Vogue stuff, right? So I have to still admit that we will find some, grounding or saying that, well, that's bad, right? And then I will try to be like, man, we should stop being extreme right-leaning. You can be just normal right-leaning or get to the middle like me, fan-shitting with me, But, yeah, they're a bunch of weirdos. That's the best thing I can say about it, though. You definitely don't want to be put into their negativity, though. I mean, I think overall the world has issue with that, but it's even more on the left too. I don't know. I mean, for me, right, and I say it all the time. For me, it's the horseshoe tier, right? If you're extreme left, extreme right, it's the same thing, right? So usually I deal with them is that I will establish that we might have some grounding, right, on some topics, and then I will just outvoke them as well. Honestly, I will do the same thing. Oh, so we're gonna follow your ideas where everyone is in chains? Yeah, but I mean, I will make fun of them in the same way. Honestly, usually, yeah. With the far right, I should do the same thing. I was like, oh, so your logic is that everyone should be yeah, like, oh, that's what that means. Oh, I see, yeah. Oh, yes, World War III, man, yeah. Like, I will make fun of them in the same way, honestly. I will outvoke them. I will outright them instead, yeah. But honestly, it's the same thing, right? Because there really is a horseshoe theory. So, if they're so extreme over here, or extreme over here, right, it's because of the same thing. So, they both have the same weakness of saying that, oh, let's test your theory to its maximized competence. Yeah, what happens if we go 100% what you want, right? And then, of course, you have to admit that, okay, maybe not 100%, but you said 100%, yeah. So I feel that dealing with them almost the same as I did with the Vogue, right? And I said it in the video, it's funny that I said that, because there was some guy saying that, oh, you complaining about Vogue and this thing, but the thing is that Vogue right is a thing as well, right? And I think that most incel, alt-right are kind of Vogue right, Because they usually get into the exact same ideas, right? Oh, I'm a victim, like with the black guy. Oh, I'm black, so no one likes me because of this thing. Oh, this thing. Oh, they get into the same victim blaming. Oh, this is the same. It's unfair, I have the wrong skin color, and oh no, if I was this thing, then I would. Yeah, they get into the same victim blaming as the vocals. Yeah, it's the same thing. So whatever. I digress. I think it's a boring issue to deal with because they're used to say things to me. Now, what do we have left? We have snakes left. I'm going to end with snakes because snakes are what you should be most afraid of, but let's just spare them to the end and be a perfect ending. So snakes are the people that will manipulate and lie to you. Usually the CEO, then. The manager, yeah, your boss, the snake boss. But if we come to that last, we have the historic us. Well, I guess we can have the sociopaths. Sociopaths tend to not really exist, though. So, sociopaths, I'm not saying they don't exist, because they really do, of course. But a real sociopath, like an actual hardcore sociopath, are dangerous most of the time. But a sociopath basically probably won't work where you work because they have a very hard time getting a job, right? A real sociopath, they have almost zero understanding of society. That's kind of how you kind of really understand them, right? They kind of opposite of psychopath in a lot of ways. And usually, a way to look at it, which I like, is that psychopaths something you're born as, and sociopaths something you're made, right? Sociopaths tend to be people that have a really bad childhood, usually abuse children, narcissistic parents, usually have really bad parents in many different ways, right? So sociopaths are very rare to find, actually, in any kind of like IT production or game development, actually, because, like I said, right, they tend to be bad at school, also etc. So they don't really get any kind of high education jobs, right? Sociopaths, you might find them, but they're actually very, very rare. So I basically only have, I wrote it down before, and it's like, I only have like really 2 examples of really hardcore sociopaths that I've worked with. So one is the same woman that has hysterical personality traits. She are all sociopaths, clearly, because she seems to have no understanding of her tantrums action, you know what I mean? And you might say the same thing, but not really, because I mean that a person I mentioned earlier, right, with the juvenile narcissistic tantrums, they will do the thing to escape and manipulate you and so forth, right? but they tend to be aware of it. You know what I mean? But this woman wasn't really. So it was very weird. She would be like, she will do that, right? And the next day, she would not just pretend that it happened, but she would be like not understanding why we think it's strange she had a tantrum. She would be like, everyone has tantrums. I'd be like, no, not really. And that's not her actually making an excuse. That, because I questioned her that several times, that's actually her just actually believing that she is acting normal, right? And the more I learned about her, she also basically just become a sad person that I met in my life, right? Because of course her mom was the exact same thing. Yeah, I talked to her, the more I had to deal with her, right? But also, again, from my zoo, right? I was like, okay. And then her mom had basically the exact same person that she has, like, tantrums, this thing, that thing. And also her dad, also a lot. And also her grandma on her mom's side, mormor, I say Swedish. In Swedish it's easier, we say mormor and farmor, right? Depending on if it's parent lineage. But basically, her whole life, she had grew up with a mom, right? Having the same disorder she has, right? Hysteric disorder. And also, and her grandma seemed to be some kind of psychopath also. Well, and also that, yeah. So she was like, this is how everyone is, right? Honestly, she had this kind of, because I really sat down with her a few times, like, can you explain to me what you mean here? Because I was like her manager, like, this doesn't make any sense. Because, like I said, usually if you have a disorder, if it's only a disorder, you will be manipulative with it, right? But you have like a conscious, manipulation, right? But she kind of like manipulated you, or failed as possible, in this case, because I didn't buy it, but I mean, she would try to manipulate you, and like I said earlier, but it wouldn't even, for her, seems like she's trying to do it on purpose. It's more like this is how people are, you know what I mean? So it's very, very weird. But I think that I would argue in her case that she was a sociopath as well as that, right? So she has that sociopathic, like, childhood, right? Of just like, oh, like, no one cares about me, no one likes me, I have no friends, really, like, my really, really lack of, like, parental control, right? Which also, of course, leads to her, like, attention-seeking and sadness. So they're almost overlapping here a lot, but I think she had both, because it was very, very strange. And also explains partially, right, why she has so many tantrums, because, of course, if you don't even understand that having tantrum isn't normal, right, I mean, then you should be questioning. That being said, obviously, in her, not in her defense, it's also that it's stupid, because it's like, even though everyone in her family does say the same thing, apparently, which is, okay, but she still has worked with other people, or been in school as well, and everyone probably will do the same thing there. So it's a little bit of a classic excuse from her standpoint, but I still understand it, how she's just like, imagine that you grew up, right, and your parents are always fighting, right? You have a terrible viewpoint of how love or marriage can be, right? It was kind of like her. Like, my mom and grandma does the same thing every day too. You're like, what? You do? And she gave me all these examples. I was like, okay, I understand. You have terrible parents. That's why I understand. You have insanely bad family. Okay, yeah, well, that explains a lot. That's not to be. I mean, usually a lot of these disorders come from that. So it's like, yeah, that. I'm not surprised you have insanely terrible parents, but okay. So she bounced a lot of it. And, but like I said, in her case, I think it's a very classic, like, oh, she has like 3 or 4 different actually disorders. And they all kind of overlap, right, on the same time. And it all, in her case, it stems from like, usually growing up with 0 attention, right? So what that means is that, in her case, so if I go into this person here, but it's very easy. I think this is my, sorry, I'm broken, right? But this is my job, so I think about it too much, right? But I think in her case, then it starts from her having like 2 parents that are both hardcore narcissists, right? Her mom had this exact same disorder, and her dad has something very similar, or had also the same disorder, but it's a math more than not, but something very similar. And her grandma also has that, so clearly also in the family too, right? But growing up with 2 parents that are both extremely narcissistic, they only care about, me, right? That doesn't make a very good parent, right? Because if both parents only care about themselves, but they also always want to be in center of the room, right? They mean that the child won't be in center of the room, right? So if the child, for example, up to their mom and say, hey mom, I drew this painting of you and me holding hands at the zoo, right? Mom is like, thank you, honey. Oh, that's me. Have you seen my painting? It's way better than your painting. I mean, honestly, that's how they act. Yeah, this is really mentally damaged grown-ups, right? There's like, oh, my painting is better than your painting, you know. You're like, you know what I mean? But seriously. I mean, it's a very classic trait. So you can see it in parents where, for example, let's say that you have been on a trip, right? You know, so you go fly, right? You go to, I don't know, you go to like Gdansk for some reason now, in Poland, Sweden. You fly back again, and you come home, right? Talk to your mom and dad, right? You know, oh, great in Gdansk, and Danzig is called back in the days. It was great. And you start describing, you know, your hotel or something and this thing there, right? And immediately your father cuts you off. And your father is like, oh, that reminds me when I was in Warsaw and we had this hotel. And he started describing his experience there, right? And your mom was like, oh, yeah. And then he steals your attention, right? I bet the parents would allow you to first explain your journey, right? And then they will say, you know, son, that reminds me of my journey that I have with your mom when you were 15 or whatever. Oh, interesting, you know. But then it cuts you off and it takes your story and it tries to convert it into his story or his attention, right? That's a very classic narcissistic parent. They try to like grab their own children's stories or journeys, how can evolve them into their own stories somehow, right? And I don't mean lie about it, I mean like mostly stealing the attention, right? Very classic narcissistic parent. Now imagine both your parents all like that, and both of them have some kind of hysterical narcissism where they can't even control it, they have bad regulation, right? They will constantly steal their child's attention, so that's why a person that obviously goes up with like attention-seeking disorder, because they're gonna be like, they never had it at home, right? You know, their mom never focused on them, right? So not even their mom, yeah. Especially in her case, her mom would be worse than her dad, so that usually is the opposite. Right? Usually the father is the more absent one, but in her case, both mom and grandma was absent 100%, right? And dad also basically, yeah. So that's like, whoa. So you kind of see what I mean. Attention-seeking disorder will be coming from that. So that's one way. And I said earlier, right, sociopath is created, psychopaths, something you're born as, is how you usually look at them. And this is what I mean, right? This is how you make a sociopath. You have two terrible parents that usually use are terrible. I mean, it's almost always the parents' fault, right? If you have a sociopathic child, right? It's basically always the parents' fault. Who else's fault would it be, right? I mean, honestly. This is how it is, but I mean, it's very, very clear, almost always. Sometimes, though, you can just be massively bullied at school or beaten up or whatever. There are other cases too, of course, but like 9 out of 10 times, a sociopath is created by the parents, I would say. Probably more than that. I mean, that's like an easy estimate. I think it's much higher than that. But now then, let's go to... well, actually, no, one more thing, sorry. I have an order, sorry, I had one other co-worker, a man, sociopath. And this is a good example. This is how to deal with sociopaths. Because I mean, in her case, I'm describing to you her issues. Now, sorry, I'm explaining to you how to deal with it. Okay. So I had a male co-worker. He was a terrible person. Also, very clearly sociopathic. Okay. Completely zero understanding of social structure. Very weird person. He was very annoying because he would always be incredibly condescending towards you. So what I mean is that he was incredibly stupid. Let's just straight up. He was very, very stupid. But he was so stupid that he had what is called Dunning-Kruger, right? So he don't understand how dumb he is. He's so stupid that he can't understand how, far he is away from actually understanding the topic, right? So he would do this like really weird thing where he would constantly be like condescending towards his coworkers, but everyone else is like, you were wrong. He's like, no, you understand my math. Your math is wrong. It's like, yeah. So he was like really weird. One time he showed me some code he'd written, and the code was like objectively, but it's code, right? It was objectively wrong, and I was like, yeah, that's wrong. Like, that won't work. Like, that's literally wrong. Like, he was like, oh, you understand me. You're too stupid. I'm much better than you. He literally told me like, I'm stupid, that he's better than me because I could understand this code. And I'm like, I understand your code. I'm telling you, it won't work. Like, run that code. It won't work. He's just like, no, you're just dumb. Okay, I'm so smart. You can't even read my code correctly. I'm like, I'm reading code correctly. Press the run button. And he's just like, no, go away, Then I press the run button to work, Like, he would do that stuff. He would do that stuff where more than one spec, this is like him every day, seriously. Maybe like, I know you're wrong, But he was so full of himself, right? That he would give you like objective stuff that you could prove him wrong on, and yet he would act like, no, I'm the one that's correct, and everyone else like, no, we all agree that you were wrong. He's like, no, I'm the correct. So he was a sociopath with IQ 5 or something. But seriously, because everything he did was very sociopathic, but it was also that he was so stupid. See, he was super annoying, David, because he was always like, he had absolutely no empathy or sympathy. He completely empty as a person, right? Never cared about anyone else. He would fight people all the time. He would try people all the time. For no reason. And I mean, that also very sociopathic tendencies. Kind of similar to the female coworker, because they have attention issues, right, usually. So he would get into fights with like everyone, with like me, all the coworkers, the owners, people on the travel, for like minor stuff, right? Like completely pointless stuff all the time too, which clearly is attention seeking. Like, why are you fighting with people like that? But with him then, the way he did with him, right, is he would gaslight you on everything all the time, right? So the way you deal with him, and this is the same thing with snakes, also we talk snakes after this done, is that you have to record everything, okay? So you deal with sociopaths, the hardcore ones, and snakes, by always have everything on mail and so on. So for example, if a snake then, snakes are basically manipulative liars, right? So basically your manager. But they tell you that, oh, you're going to have I promise to give you a raise, right? You want that in writing, you know what I mean? So every time a snake wants to have a meeting with you about your whatever, suing them or something, whatever it's about, you want to do it over mail or something similar. You never want to do it in real life because you have to have it in writing. However, if you do it in real life, if you can record it in real life, that's even better. So only do it in real life if you can record it, right? So you have to also know your law. So for example, in Sweden, you're allowed to record any meeting you have people, conversation you have people over the phone if you're part of it, right? So if I, for example, gonna call this consulting firm, which I don't trust, right, because I think they're snakes, then I would call them one phone, and I would have a computer PC here, right, recording the full, message, right? I would record it, log it to the PC, right, and record the whole conversation. Absolutely. I would never call someone otherwise. And this is kind of funny. So I even told people this thing, and then yes, they tried to betray me later. I just told them that no, every time when it comes to work, I always record all the the message I have. I always record it. Yeah. I always record it. I don't take work phones. If someone calls me about a work stuff at home, I always record it, 100%. Otherwise, I won't answer the phone. No, it's either being recorded or it's not being answered. And that's just what you have to deal with. But I had one CEO I worked with. I worked at an IT consulting company for a while, and the CEO told me there, second or third week, he's a cool guy. He told me like, always assume someone records you. And I was like, yeah, of course. He's like, no, always. He was like, blah, blah. And he explained how he had, had some rivals calling him, trying to fish for information, right? And they were trying to ruin he had some contract with the government about some job, And they would call him and they would record that. And he would say, oh yeah, I lowered that. And they would sue him. And so he was like, he's like, I learned the hard way, man. Like, if someone calls you, they always record it. Yeah. If someone calls you from other companies, if they're lying, even people that are applying for a job might be working for the press or this thing or the government. He was like, I always assume that I am being recorded always on the phone, always. Whoever calls me, wherever I am, I will assume I am being recorded. That had paranoid as hell, but he was like, that is life, man. And I was like, yes, yes, sir. That's what I think too. No, but seriously, I always assume, right, that I am being recorded on the phone if I talk to someone at work. Absolutely. If someone calls me from China, like, I recorded me. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. If someone records me, they call me over, some contracts, some resumes, whatever, right? This is being recorded, yeah. So, for example, if someone would apply for a job where I work, right, I wouldn't sit there in the phone and be like, yeah, no, I'm going to hire you, you're a woman, or, I would never say some dumb stuff like that, because I always assume they are recording you know what I mean? And I, of course, do the same thing in all directions. Absolutely. So that's one way to deal with them, because honestly, sociopaths and snakes, they will always gaslight you. Right? They will always lie to you about promises or this thing and that. So this guy, then, sociopath guy, right? He was so crazy. Like I said, he was in trouble. So this is not a video, but this guy deserves to hold the video. But he basically would like destroy stuff at work. He would go in and like I said, this is not a video, but he basically would go in and like rewrite documents on Google spreadsheets, and you can see he did it, and it was all this stuff that he would do, all this crazy stuff. He would ruin the work and blame other people and on purpose to cause drama or something. He was just crazy. And we would be like, oh, I have you on tape, I have you on the camera doing it, I have you being recorded there, sitting at PC doing this stuff. He's like, it wasn't me. He was like, I have you being recorded here. So once he was exposed to for doing one of these things, I took a meeting with him and another coworker, and I had my phone, it's recording the whole message. Like, I'm gonna record this whole, and I was not even pretending to hide it. I was like, I'm gonna record this whole thing, and we're gonna talk this down. And you clearly did this thing, and then he blamed the CEO for like 2 hours. Oh, there was a CEO, and like the CEO went to your PC, yes, and he hacked your PC, your password, yes, and then it did your PC, yes, but I have it on camera that it's you. And he's just like, that wasn't me, it was PC. Like, oh, okay. I'm gonna go get the CEO now. He's like, hey, I'm here. Like, I recorded him also saying it. And the CEO is like, yeah, like, what the F, yeah. Like, so you have to be really like detailed with these people, right? That's the best way to do sociopaths. Because they will always lie and scheme, right? But they're very stupid, yeah. They're not psychopaths. Sociopaths are very stupid usually. So they're easy to get them, because they will say dumb stuff. They kind of like Homer Simpsons. They will scheme a lot, but they're bad at scheming, right? And snakes are interesting then, because snakes are people that are manipulated, you can trust them. And they are, how say it, they might be smart. Also usually stupid, so they're easier, but a little complicated. But let's do snakes now. So snakes, moral snakes. So snakes are these like weird people that you know that they have, I would describe them as they will always backstab you 100% if it benefits them, right, you know. So they're very like self-interest people. And I think a lot of people actually confuse this, what I call snake now then, with like infiltrator woke people, right? Because I think that a lot of people that are infiltrating woke guys actually rather are manipulative, self-serving snakes, right? So a self-serving person, if you look at alignment charts, right, are actually chaotic neutral. They are not good or evil, right? They just really care about themselves, which I guess even in a sense, but you know what I mean? They only really care about their own life, right? So I think a lot of people misunderstand what some of these like infiltrator activists, woke people are doing. I think some of them aren't actually woke either. They just pretend to be that because they want to, you know, sustain their power, right? Kind of like a politician that is lying about whatever, right? Just to remain in power. Yeah, I don't actually care about what I'm saying. I just don't want to remain in power. Vote for me so I have more power, you know. Yeah, it's a lot like that, right? So, but there are a lot of snakes then in the game industry, which are the manipulative meek people, right? They should do anything to retain whatever power they have, right? A very common issue with bad managers, of course, is they are only care about like basically remaining as a manager or whatever they have, so to speak, and not actually making good product, right? But yeah, it's hard to explain it. But I have never been tricked by a snake. Maybe it's my secret power, but I always feel like I have like a snake radar. Yeah, I can feel like I know exactly when someone isn't telling me the truth. And I think that usually the trait that I look for, something we have in Swedish, and my mom taught me this trick, but in Swedish, we have this word called klämkäck. And that can't really be translated, but klämkäck is like overly positive, something like that. And my mom always told me that never trust people that are too nice to you, yeah. Because people that are too nice to you, they want something, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's that kind of classic, but very true mentality, right? That why are you so nice to me, right? So every time that I worked in a company in the game industry, where one of the managers is overly nice, I'm like, I'm good at my job. Why are you so nice about my job? Yeah. Oh, you want something? You want me to agree with your plan? Yeah. This thing right there. So I never trust those people, right? It's super obvious in the game industry, I would say. Every time they're too nice to you, yeah, but for no reason. And it's not even good management either, right? Because you just get paranoid over it. But even if you aren't as paranoid as I am, but you're not paranoid if you're correct though. But even if you aren't as me then, as correct, it's just weird because I never really, almost like every game company I watched for my life, it's always like one of those guys, you know, one of those snakes, yeah. Where everyone knows they're like usually a brown liquor, right? They love that brown taste, and they will lie about everything, and they will always backstab you, and it's all about just like identifying basically a person is 100% self-serving. And what I really hate with these snakes people though, is that I can respect people who's trying to always survive themselves, right? It's a kind of capitalistic personality that I can actually have somewhat respect over. But what I usually have is saying the two things. They usually suck at it, okay? That's why I call them snakes too, because truly manipulative masterminds, you won't actually figure it out, you know what I mean? But snake managers, these usually are managers, usually like a middle management, right? They tend to be really obvious about it, yeah. So everyone just gets frustrated about it. This guy's obviously lying, yeah. Like everyone is frustrated about it because they usually suck at it. You know? They actually, the skill level is so incredibly low, basically. So it's like super frustrating. But secondly, it's kind of the same thing there, that they tend to get exposed a lot then because they are so bad at it, but they will never man up to it, you know what I mean? That's why I really hate them too, because like, I think that it is much more beautiful, right, with someone that's evil, and if you expose them or fight them or whatever, and they're like, yeah, I'm evil, you know? The people are like, yeah, I'm the bad guy, you know? Like, you prefer that guy that's like, I said, like, yes, right, it was me! You know, you prefer that, like, ha ha ha, that evil guy, right? Then the guy that, when he is exposed as the evil guy, he's like, well, that wasn't really me, you're misunderstanding it. And they keep trying to pretend that they aren't them, right? So they really, really are pathetic people. It's usually the most pathetic person you find, right? Because they're always just trying with smoke and mirrors to pretend who they are, right? But I guess you also have people that actually are really evil, right? You also have the people that actually are really, really evil, but they usually are proud of it, right? And like I said, I respect people that are proudly evil. I respect people that are, you know, secretly evil. Yeah, there's a big difference. But snakes are a problem though, because you can never trust them, right? But like I said, I think usually for me, I go with my mom's advice, and I usually identify them by their, you know, pretend goodness, right? This klämkäckheten. And one thing, for example, I had a manager then. Well, I was also a manager, but I mean, we were managers in the company, and we were sharing an office, right? So I didn't like the guy before either, but after we shared an office, I really hated him because it's hard to explain, but like, but it honestly is a important lesson that will be learned, but it's hard to explain. But basically, we were sharing an office, right, for let's say probably one half year, something like that. Maybe 2 years, 1.5, not fully 2 years, but like something in that range, like, you know, 20 months maybe, but whatever. So I'm sharing office with this guy, right? He's left to me, okay? And he does a lot of phone calls. He's a manager, he's a producer. He's got a lot of phone calls. You know what I mean? Talks to all the employees. You know, how other people to hire. Talks to the press, whatever. So that, you know, press. So. And he's like, every time he talks to someone on the phone, I'm just like lying. I can just hear how he talks to them in this like really, really deceptive manner, right? You know. And one thing I hear, for example, is that he can talk like Trump-ishy. You know, every time he calls someone on the phone, he's always like, "Are you the best? I love you, bro. Like, you're my favorite guy to call. You know, oh, you know I love you. You know." He's always like on the phone next to me, like, "Oh yeah, I love you guys." Like, "Oh yeah, that's gonna be great. What's the best thing you ever seen?" You know, like he does the same like, you know, pandering lie all the time. There's something like that. Honestly, I wish I could explain it better, but it's something to do with pandering. Yeah, it reminds me of the vocals, I guess. But he panders all the time. Right? I listened to this guy next to me for almost 2 years, like I said. And he's so pandering. Every time he talks to someone on the phone, he's just pandering to them. Yeah, he's like, "Oh yeah, you're my best guy. I love you. You're my best." You know, it's always like, "You're the greatest guy I ever had in my life." You know, "Oh my God, I love you." Yeah, it's always like pandering. Oh, it's be so awesome. Right? So, for example, when he goes over, you know, people for interviews, right, to hire them, you know, to employ them. He's always saying, "Oh, I love your resume, you're so good. Oh my God, you're gonna come over and interview, you're gonna love the team, and everyone's gonna love you," and it's all that, you know, blah 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 blah. Someone in the bus all the time, right? And I'm talking to a guy next day. I'm like, meeting 2:00, yeah, like whatever, I don't care. I was like, "Yeah, I'll see you at 2." You know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm a grown up. I'll see you at 2. Yeah. I'm like, I like your resume. I'll see you at 2. And usually, as you can see here, right? Probably, I guess, I talk a lot, right? No, but I can talk a lot too, right? But when I read the resume, I talk to the guy, I'm just like, yeah, I like your resume here, but I have a question on your education here. Please a little bit to me. You did this game, so prepare for that, and I see you at Tuesday at 2, and then I whatever. Right? I mean, I kind of give you that. Right? They might ask quickly. Oh, but that meant that thing. I was like, okay, yeah, we talk about it more on Tuesday. I kind of do that. Right? It's like that's it. That's it. But if my coworker that would do something, he would be like, I see what you wrote here in the resume, and I love this part, but this part, little bit questionable, but this one I love, so can you spend this part? Like, he's kind of like that, like overexcited, right? Overexcited, over-pandering, oh, I love this is so amazing, everyone's gonna like this thing, it's so impressive, it's way too much that, right? I'm just like, I like it. I'm being much more ambiguous, like, yeah, it's okay, we gotta go over some detail though, yeah. You know what I mean? I'm trying to be the grown up, being like, well, we can interview you. We can interview on the next Tuesday, and of course when you interview them with this guideline, right? Obviously because like a bad guy, good cop guy, this guy is overtly nice. He's like super good cop, and I'm a bad cop, but I'm become bad cop because he's like so nice. So I'm just like, sure, we got a question to here then. No, but it's weird, right? And I think that, like I said, even before I shared off with this person, I never trusted him for a second, right? I would never trust him further I could throw him, right? He always felt like he was a snake, like I said. He was never truthful about anything. In any regard, right? As a person, he's just a faker and everything. And then when I hear him talk all the time to people, like I said, that I just, that I guess even worse. Oh yeah, I see what I mean here. I really, really can hear him now, just lying. And like I said, the same lies over and over again, right? To different people, yeah, exact same lines. It feels very rehearsed, right? It's very, very phony, yeah. So absolutely, be afraid. They're probably the worst people in the gaming industry. They're worse than the woke people, and also of course the snakes people. They are woke if they have to be woke. You know what I mean? Like I said earlier, a lot of people just pretend to be whatever they have to be to survive it. And no one more than these like self-serving snake people or pretend whatever, right? They will be Nazis if they have to, They will be Stalinists if they have to, yeah. They will be Jaggerists, These are people that will join whatever, whatever group they want them, right? And that's also one thing that's very obviously, one way to spot the snake is that a snake is very weak. And I said it, of course, but they're weak both in, like, personality trait. They usually don't have much to go with. And they're very lacking in talent. But even more so, the snake is very individualistic weak. So what I mean with that is that, I go straight past the word for it, but how do I explain this thing in a good behavior science thing? This is where I need to have my lecture behind me here. But basically, right, these people, and this is very, very true, honestly, is that they are, I said, overall weak people, right? That's why they're so self-serving, because they have like no actual, confidence, right? They have no confidence. But what you can really see with them, and I'm not generalizing, but it's very, very true in most of the cases, is that they're very bad at anything that takes singularity, right? So individualism. So what I mean with that is, for example, imagine what sports did they play, right? So you talk to them about sports or games then, and they are people that will play, League of Legends, right? Because I play Street Fighter, right? I can't blame if I fail this game, right? I can blame my bad character, yeah, bad code, yeah. Oh, I did nerf my character, but you get my point, right? If I play Street Fighter, I can't blame my ally saying that. Well, obviously his fault, He didn't block, he didn't defend, my lane, yeah. He let the guy get away and gank me. It's his fault, right? So I mean, genuinely. For example, this snake guy that I'm thinking most of my coworker, he only played Dota, for example. He only played multiplayer online games. I'm not even kidding here, and he only played them in that kind of situation where he could always blame someone else, right? So, but in all seriousness, I'm messed up like a joke, but no, in all seriousness, the snake self-serving personality trait, which is not a psychopath or something like that, it's more like a high neurosity trait because they have low self-esteem and so on, right? They of course won't actually play or do sports with only themselves, right? Whatever that is, right? They prefer to play soccer or football, right, or baseball or something, over playing something like tennis, right? Because then of course it's only them, right? I guess you could play double, but yeah, or whatever, right? Table tennis and so forth. Yeah, they prefer to play games where there are a lot of allies. You know what I mean? A lot of people behind them, because it's interesting too. I think that I had never seen a single like snake eye person trying to also be the top, right? That's also how you know they're very pathetic. So also another trait to identify the snake man is that, like I said earlier, right? They're usually a middle manager, right? Because they don't try to become number one either, because they know that they are sucked. They know they have no real talent and skills usually, and they low self-esteem. So they will not try to become number one because they don't have the confidence to be the leader, right? To be the actual in the pinnacle, right? So they don't want to have too much spotlight. They want to be in the spotlight, but they don't want to have the most. They want to have the second most. You know what I mean? So they can blame the guy with the most, right? So they might end up at the top. But very rarely you will find them. That's why they all say middle manager, right? They find them in the middle where they can kind of go under the radar. You know what I mean? They're only about self-surviving, right? So you will definitely find that a lot. And I think that, like I said, they only do team stuff. They don't do like straight fighter because it's a single player game, and they don't try to become like the boss or the captain of the football team. You know what I mean? They want to be like one of the guys in the back, in the middle. Yeah, they don't want to be like the guy in the front. So it's interesting, very interesting. And lastly, all the reason I hate them is that when it comes to production, that a video game or whatever, right? But in this case, video games, they are also very easy to spot because they are never caring about the product, right? When it comes to like a narcissist, like a sociopath, a psychopath, other kind of narcissistic traits, a borderline person or whatever, they can still love the game, They can be like, I am the best, I make the best games, you know what I mean? They have this grandiose, psychopaths of course are very grandiose, right? So they're gonna be like, I want to make the best game, you know what I mean? So they will produce a better game. Autistic people usually don't care about it either really, but they might, and so forth. It's different kind of traits. And woke people will also not care about the game. For them, it's about the message, right? Again, why we hate them, right? Because they don't care about making a good game. They care about having the correct pronouns and the right skin color or whatever, right, on the characters. And also, of course, this keeps saying why they make bad games is because I don't think that, I said many times, right? Obviously, you can make a game that is woke and it can be good, right? But the reason they don't do that is because they never think that. They think first of all how to make it woke, and then they make a game. You know what I mean? They first think, how do I implement my woke stuff, and then they think, how do I make the game fun or whatever. That for them is secondary, right? If they did the opposite, if they first made a fun game that's really fun and engaging, great balance, great character design, and then they made it woke, you know what I mean? I mean, maybe not the character design, but something else. Maybe the storyline. Something else. That would be an easier success story for them, right? To first make a good game and then make it woke. But for example, Concord, right? A good example of the gameplay is pretty mid, right? Yes, Mobile Rival is very popular, but Mobile Rival is also way more fun. I like Mobile Rival. It's better than Overwatch, but it's fun, You jump around, cool mechanics. It's like Overwatch, but it's better, right? With Spider-Man and so on. But I mean, even without being Spider-Man, Mobile Rival still plays a lot better than Concord. It's faster, it's more maps, it's much more characters, right? Etc. So it's like, Concord, for example, is a good example of they obviously first concerned themselves about making it correct, right? And then they tried to make a game around that. It's very clear though in that whole game that nothing really worked, right? They were very they had hiring people from help side, and they probably just honestly I think that game probably just barely worked probably until it was released. I think a deep secret, or maybe not secret, but a deep fault, or you call it, in that game production was probably that it just probably didn't barely work. But I heard and read from insiders, it sounds to me that the game was barely functional, right? The last year or 2 years. They worked on it for like 8 years or whatever, 8 years, whatever. But they worked on it for many years, right? But it seemed like almost all the functional code was basically written like the last year. So they probably had some other game with it scraped and redid it and so on. So it feels like that's probably the real issue why. But still, though, it happens, right, because they weren't focused on the right things, right? For example, the whole professor thing. I mentioned in the video, but imagine having to work with the professor, right? That's gonna slow every time down, That person is gonna cost you so much research time, and development time and so on, right? They're focusing still on having the correct people, so to speak, gender or whatever, or actually having the correct skills, right? And also having the correct meeting and so forth. But whatever, I digress. Back to how to survive them, right? But I think that the snakes then, right, are very similar to the Vokies in that sense, right? Like I said, they don't actually care about making a game. The Vokies care about the message, the agenda, right? They want to push that out, and then if the game works or not doesn't actually matter for them, right? Which is really stupid, because obviously if the game would matter and actually would be better, the message would put better. I mean, it's so stupid. The Vokies are so dumb, man. The Vokies are so dumb in that sense. Because they genuinely do live in a dream world where they are focusing on the message over anything else, right? So they would rather be like, I just make this message, and then I put in the actual, fun gameplay and so on afterwards. And hopefully that works. But of course, if they, I keep saying it, but just try this obvious one. If they actually want to push the message, it would be obviously much easier if it actually was actually a good product. But whatever, I digress. But again, the snakes are kind of the same thing. That's why I bring it up now, because the snakes, these like self-serving survivor snake people, are almost exactly the same. They don't actually care at all about the game. They only care about not getting fired, right? So they have a very similar personality trait where no matter what role they have, I mean, if they're like a coder, a designer, level design, technical animator, whatever, it doesn't matter. Right? Whatever they do, they tend to do the exact same thing there, where they play it very safe, right? And also why I bring it up to here now, and I hope you guys like to hear combine with the last video, because it's like part of this, what people think are, again, the Vogue, right? I don't think are Vogue. I don't think these self-serving snake people aren't Vogue, right? They are just trying to always survive no matter what. So what they do then, especially middle management when it comes to investment companies, right, is that they will be very safe. So they will make, Spider-Man 5, but everyone is black, because it's safer, right? They try to make a new black hero, which is gonna make Spider-Man black, you know what I mean? It's easier to make, for example, what's the name? Ironheart, right? So it's an Iron Man movie coming this year, I think so. But anyway, so Iron Man, of course, we have known Iron Man is Tony Stark. He has, a movie, right? Many movies and blah blah blah. So on. He's out now, He's out, and now we have Riri Williams, which is this like girl Iron Man, right? Female Iron Man, and she's black. She has her own movie coming, I believe this year. I think so. And that movie, right, is only being made because obviously Disney and Marvel think they can just live on the merit of Iron Man, right? So they have these very successful Iron Man movies, made a lot of money, and she's basically Iron Man 4, right? Obviously they would rather have Tony Stark as her, if they could, right? He of course played the Doom now instead. But they get my point, if they could, they obviously would just rather make another Iron Man movie, but he doesn't want to play Iron Man anymore, understandably, like that's be fun probably. So he's like, yeah, I'm evil now instead, which I definitely respect more. No, I mean, of course, Robert Downey Jr., I'll be like him. I would also much rather play another character in Marvel. After having played Iron Man in so many spin-offs, and yeah, whatever. So, whatever. But yeah, my point, right? A lot of the direction this thing, and I used to work here, right? I used to work this many years ago, and the reason this is going in this direction, in this phase, whatever it's called, I don't know what the phase is called anymore. Is it 11? Is it 12? Is it 7? I have no idea. 5, I think. But get my point. In this like 5, whatever it's called now, right? There's a lot of these movies that tend to seem to just try to live on the older movies, right? So it's like Iron Man 4, starring Riri Williams. Captain America, starring the Falcon instead of Captain America. Which is kind of how the comic did it, so fine, whatever. You get my point. Like, you're trying to do that, right? So, and that, to me, isn't Vogue per se. Obviously, Ironheart is very Vogue. It's like black teenage girl, Tony Stark, and she's all sassy. She steals her suit, and she's like Tony. No, she's not that Tony whatsoever, I'm kidding. And so forth, right? Obviously, it's Vogue itself. But if I was a movie producer at Marvel currently, or Disney, I wouldn't say it is Vogue to make Ironheart. I hope I understand what I mean here, the difference, right? There is one thing to create Ironheart in the comic books, and it's all this like sassy black woman, 1,000 times smarter than Tony Stark kind of thing, and so on. That is very woke. That is very much like a Mary Sue is a better female version of Tony Stark in every direction, and she's not white man and so on, right? That's very, very woke, extremely woke. But if you sit here now, like 10 years later after she was created in the comic book, 10 years, whatever later, right? And you have to just make 10 movies this year. Saying that, I think we should make Iron Man 4 starring the new black girl. That to me isn't woke. That to me is just like, that to me is that Snake guy, sorry, talking about Snake Man, yeah. That to me is like, I have to say something that is kind of safe, but not overtly strange, but also not overtly expensive, and we might have some money, and we can push it on like Black Lives or something. You know what I mean? That to me is much more like I'm just a director's afraid of getting fired. Yeah, maybe like Iron Man 4. You know what I mean? It's more like that, right? I think so. I don't think the same thing, because I don't think that you're woke saying that. I think it's just you're more afraid of doing something else, right? They could have kept doing something. They could have taken out, for example, and made a Luke Cage movie. I don't know, but they could have made something else, right? There's so many Marvel characters. You could easily make other, movies about Marvel characters, right? They might be equally good or even better without focusing on these like weird woke recast, right? But of course, it's easier to do that because it's like, well, I mean, it's just kind of the same thing. So no. And coming back to the game industry, like I said, right? I think it is to some percent. Then you have maybe 5% or whatever are snake people, right? And I think it's in there. They don't vote for snakes. They will just say that, oh yeah, I want it to be woke, or I want it to be a female character. They will just say that because it sounds good on paper, right? And most of all, they will very rarely have any opinion. You know what I mean? They will just follow the flow, right? But they're much more different than the meek people, right? The meek people just follow the flow because they never wanna, like I said earlier in this video, they don't wanna get promotion. They just wanna stay in the bottom. These guys wanna stay higher up but not too high up, right? So they will try to control the flow a little bit, but they tend to still be very much like, if they get any kind of feedback they don't like, they will just give up, right? So they have this like weird positioning where they will try to kind of, no, the way they do it is that they will be more manipulative, right? So they will follow the flow, but they will try to, convince their boss to do what they want, you know what I mean? Then they can blame the manager if it fails, right? Yeah, something like that. But I think it's again important to understand too, these people are very common. You find them at every game company, and they are dislikable in many ways because they're so fake, they're so phony. But also, like I said, they share this value with the woke, right? That they don't care about the game or whatever you're doing a dating app, it doesn't matter. But it seems I used to dislike people in general, right? I used to dislike people in general. Like I said, I have an easy time with the sociopaths. At least they want to make a good game usually. I mean, again, sociopaths, they love themselves a lot, so they want to make a good game, my game kind of thing, yeah. So snake eye people, I keep saying it, but they don't care about the game, and it's actually kind of weird and fascinating to deal with them, because you're like, you're not even trying to make a good game, You're just trying to make it look good on paper, yeah. You're just trying for the investor to fire you. It's super annoying. Sit down with my man next to me, and he's just trying not to get fired all the time, I mean, it's so annoying, yeah. They're so afraid to take chances, right? It's super boring. But lastly then, psychopaths will be the last thing, right? There are some other stuff too, like yandere and so on. Yandere girls! Yeah, you guys say. But I never actually met a yandere at the office. I dated a yandere girl, made a video about a few years ago. But yandere basically are people that are super codependent with you. And that, I don't know, I never seen it as a business relationship. But yeah, yandere girls, you deal with them by marrying them. No, you deal with them by just accepting their insanity, but also flattering them. So I guess you have a short story for psychopaths. So they did a yandere girl, very codependent, right? She would constantly call me, oh, what do you do? What do you do? So, right? So on Wednesdays at that time, I went to a board game evening every Wednesday, play board games. And she would call me and be like, where are you? What are you doing? I told you, every Wednesday, board games, And she's like, but why you? And I invite you every time. You also know, yeah, fucking nerds, nerds. And I was like, exactly. So you don't want to go anyway. So why do you complain, man? And then she would be like, take a photo, of your that you actually are there, right? She's very trusted. She's very trusted, but massive trusted. So I would take a photo, right, of the people that are playing some board games, right, in this place. And then she would be like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of fat nerds. Like, see, it's just a bunch of nerds. Wait, but there's a fat female nerd there. You didn't tell me about girls there. And I was like, oh, you mean this woman? Yeah, but I mean, like, no one dates her. She's she's a gamer girl, And then she would be like, oh, you're cheating on me with her, aren't you? Basically, immediately, right? So the way you deal with the other girls, you tell them that cheating on her. You see the image, right? I mean, you were 10 times more attractive. You were a goddess. She's like an ugly person. Oh, that's true. Yeah, okay. I have standards. Oh, that's true. Like, you just give them a lot of compliments. Yeah, give them a lot of compliments. Just give them constant compliments. But you were the most attractive woman in the city. Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true. That's good. Yeah, yes. that's true. You just tell them what they want. Yeah, just give them a compliment. And then you're completely afraid of them, ignore them. How did I dump her? I usually ignore her, you have to ghost them, basically. But anyway, psychopaths then, because I've never seen a Yander actually at the office now. Psychopaths, though, tend to be less common than sociopaths. Mentioned them earlier, right? Sociopaths are something that usually is created by bad parents, almost always. Psychopaths are something you're born at, you're born as evil, but they aren't actually, right? For psychopaths, tend to do a step less crime than average person because they're more in control and so on. So psychopaths are very high empathy. People never understand, but they're high empathy because they're very manipulative, so they have high empathy for that. But psychopaths are very rational beings, like extreme rationality, more so than autistic people. So the way you deal with psychopaths is the trade, right? So psychopaths, I think, is to deal with, because I am by myself, but we deal with them by basically, like I said, they're very rational. So you deal with them in rationality value, basically, right? So if you have an issue with them, or you have like a conflict with them, you have to kind of try to, let's say it, just argue, just talk to, you have to be very open with it and straight with it. Say, okay, I want this, you want that, let's celebrate, we both get what we want, you want to have that kind of trade. They're very trade by nature, massively so. What you don't want to do is that you don't want to lie to them and have to pretend, because they will know when you're lying. They're very good at knowing when people are lying to them. That's the superpower. So you don't want to be like, how do I say it? The dumbest thing you can do with psychopaths is probably underestimating them, yeah. A real psychopath, like I said, actually has higher empathy than the average person, right? People always misunderstand that, because the conceptual idea is that psychopaths are, mean and so on, right? But the thing is that a psychopath, they understand other people really, really well, but they don't care, right? They have no remorse and no guilt, but they understand what they're doing with. So, like I talked about earlier, that the coworker had hysteric, sort of, she seemingly had no understanding even, basically, sometimes, if she was wrong or not, right? That's sociopathic tendencies. Like, I don't even understand if I'm correct or not. I'm just crazy, kind of. But psychopaths, on the other hand, they understand fully what they're doing. Right? They have like a very, very good understanding of society and norms, and this is what the rules are and so on. And that's why they usually don't go to jail, so they're very good understanding of this is the rules, right? But they don't care, right? If they hurt someone, they don't care if they like throw someone away, so to speak. Right? But they, they focus on, if as long as you're useful for them, they will keep you, right? If you're not useful, they don't care about you anymore, so to speak. But anyway, the point is that they understand what they're doing, right? They just don't care how they affect other people. To some extent. Depends, of course, on the context, but they don't care about if a coworker gets fired or whatever, if they don't like them, so to speak. They might like them, then they actually do care, but I mean, in normal, they don't care, right? So it's like, how I say it, my point is that a psychopath tends to know you better than you know yourself, right? Because they analyze you, they're highly empathic, and they're very rational, right? So they will analyze you and like predict how you behave, whatever, right? Or kind of predict if you're lying and so on. So the worst thing you can do, like I mentioned earlier, and I'm trying to explain it better here, is that don't confront the psychopath and then lie about whatever. Because if they come to something you said, right, and you say that's not true or this thing, whatever, that doesn't work against them, right? Because you can't lie to them, right? They will always be like, that's a lie, yeah. And that will piss them off, right? Because they will be like, oh, but if you tell me the truth, this is better, right? So that you have to be honest with them in that sense. There's no point lying. You can, of course, lie, but you can do bigger lies, so to speak. But I mean, these like minor lies. I mean, like this. I mean, I must say they're mind readers. They don't know what you're doing at your home or whatever, right? But I mean, like, don't. How do I say this? Like I said, psychopaths are very aware. They're very keen awareness. So it's like, if you have any like company conflicts, you know, and I've seen it many times in my life, you know, these people, they will pick up on that. They know who is fighting. They know who is sleeping with who. They know who is cheating on whose husband, you know. This is people that know the stuff. Psychopaths loves gossip. Interesting, yeah. Psychopaths, that's actually a key note here, because psychopaths are always men, right? Like 99% psychopaths are men, because it's the anti-personality disagreeable. It's disagreeable shorting, so it's like 20% of more men and blah blah blah. But basically, only the most extreme people, right, on disagreeableness are psychopaths. So basically only men. And men tend to dislike gossip, right? Talking with the girls about this, but psychopaths tend to like gossip because they're very manipulative, right? They want to know who is doing what, who is cool right now at school or whatever, right? So if you have someone that, as always, I'm generalizing here in my behavior standpoints, in my behavior movies, but if you have a man, especially a teenager, that is a masculine teenager, right? Not feminine, so he likes football or whatever, hockey or so on. No, doesn't have any like feminine traits really, except gossip desire. That's probably a psychopathic teenager, because normally, right, you will find male that like gossip tend to be, of course, more feminine, right? Like tend to be gay or trans or whatever, right? You will find males that like that kind of like girly gossiping behavior, sitting up all night gossiping with their girlfriends, right? When they're 16 or whatever. That's a very like feminine behavior. And I'm not saying you have to be gay if you like that, but obviously the stereotype is that gay guys can't do that, you know what I mean? But if you have that said, a very masculine man, a man that you would never think is gay, but he likes that behavior, you know what I mean? That particular behavior of knowing who is sleeping with who and who is doing that and who betrayed who and so on, yeah. Psychopaths. Like psychopaths. But seriously, this is why I love talking about this stuff, because there are so many traits you can pick up looking at different people that I think people don't really think about. But for me, it's an obvious psychopathic tendency, because psychopaths are so into understanding how everything connects, right? Especially among people, I mean, all society, but especially like at the school or the office or whatever. So, they're very good at that, and they will focus on that thing, right? Much more than other men do, unless, you know, more like gay and trans, more feminine men, but especially of the masculine men. So, back to the office then, right? Psychopaths are probably the ones that know that you slept with that coworker or whatever. Yeah, they are those guys, right? Definitely. So, you can't really lie to them about that either, even less, right? So we're always gonna be like, oh yeah, but I have this thing on you. So, but how do you manage around it then? But I'm reporting it out here, so you shouldn't lie about that. And well, one thing obviously is don't do any dumb shit right at the office, because they will know about it. But no, but I mean, there's one thing though. But if you have done that, how do you avoid that? Honestly, I never thought about it before in my life, because I have never been that guy that fools around in the office. You know, obviously I'm too paranoid. I'm always being recorded, but. What do you do then? Thing is that usually you defeat them, but everything means war. You defeat them by like ignoring them, yeah. You ghost them. You're boring. Yeah, that's what I mean. If you're too honest with them, or if you're too like directly against them, antagonistic against them, so you're too much nobody in trouble. So basically, like, a psychopath likes to play people, right? I think an interesting thing you have to learn about psychopaths is that they rarely play to win, which sounds like really weird. which seems like that can be true, but it is very true actually. Psychopaths, especially in the office environment, tend to not aim at winning. They tend to aim to not lose either. They're kind of like a cat. They play with the victim, they play with the mouse. So a real psychopath tend to they don't want to like in the case of oh I know you were cheating or whatever, yeah. A psychopath is like I don't want to tell people that actually. I want you to do me favors or whatever and do this thing that thing and see how long I can push you to do it. Yeah, it's more like what can I do with this thing? Yeah, how long can I take this? So, it's more like that. But it's not like winning or losing, right? And they like to kind of prolong it as long as they can. Yeah. So you know what I mean earlier. You don't lie to them because they just pisses them off, but they also like them because that means you're lying to me. I know you're lying though. You want to lie to me? You kind of get into that feel, right? So you don't wanna provoke them, right? Yeah. So you treat them honestly, and you don't interact into their games, right? Into their mind games. So that I think is important to understand is that like I keep saying here is that they want to have these like mind games, right? So what they're weak against is boredom, yeah. They're really at boredom. If you're boring, the more plain you are, the less you react to it, the less they will care about it, right? That makes any sense. I hope it makes sense. But I think it's an important lesson to understand there is that psychopaths, very empathic, very manipulative, but don't actually play to win usually. They just play for the fun of it. You know what I mean? Which makes them strange and hard to grasp, probably in that sense, because I think a lot of psychopaths also are happy not winning but achieving some kind of weird evidence they want to prove to you something like that. I think for them, a psychopath tend to they don't want to win in a normal sense. If they want to win, they don't want to win as in oh I got the girl or I got this thing or they're actually not or I got a job. They tend to want to more focus on making you understand who they're fighting, that they are superior than you. It's more a superiority complex, right? But how do you spot psychopaths? Well, look at me. No, but psychopaths, I think usually is grandiose design. That's one thing you find a lot, right? Like I said earlier, some of these feminine traits that doesn't make any sense otherwise. Masculine feature, but some feminine behavior traits. It's kind of interesting with that. Tend to have jobs that are, either with a lot of power, right? But necessarily not like classic as a CEO or so on. No, but I think psychopaths, if they don't have power jobs, you want to have jobs that are actually complicated. This maybe sounds weird, but no, because psychopaths, again, I think their biggest weakness is boredom. Yeah. So psychopaths, even more so than having power over others, which isn't the thing actually, it's boring jobs, right? So the dream job of psychopaths are definitely still kind of like a surgeon or whatever because it's a complicated job, they have power over others, it's a lot of variety. So psychopaths goes after jobs that have high optional variety, like we have a lot of different stuff happening. The utility per day is pretty high, yeah. They don't do Monday jobs, they hate Monday jobs, they hate mundanity. The average psychopath can't live with that. So stuff like that. But they also definitely tend to be, like I talked about earlier, snake people to some extent. But I think that snake is talking about the same thing. They can definitely be similar because psychopaths always tends to be middle managers, but they aren't the same because psychopaths, I'll say it, they don't necessarily care about the whole like survival thing. In a sense, they also have high survival traits, but I think a psychopath, for example, I said earlier, in the game industry, a psychopath still wants to make a good game because they have this like grandiose self-being, right? Which is the most common trait for psychopath is a grandiose self worldview, right? I am valuable, right? Very high confidence, extremely high like self-value, self-love and so on. So they want to make a good game, right? They want to show the world they can make a good game. So that's the biggest difference. You can spot the difference between a psychopath and a snake. And it is probably better for snakes, but I don't know. But snakes for me are. I haven't actually come up with a good term for what snakes are, but I think they are probably men with very high neuroticism. That's probably something like that that creates a snake. I wonder what that would create actually as a. Oh, I see. it correctly immediately. You want to hear this? Yeah, sorry about that. Now I was gonna put the mouse here, and I saw that the mouse is stuck in the sword behind me. So when I was gonna move the mouse, the course it's stuck here. Yeah, I managed to so when I was so, oh shit, yeah. And then the mouse pulled out the hard drive that connects the camera and so on. So I was like, okay, whatever, experiment over. No, but honestly, I wish I had a better name for Snake Eye, because they definitely do different from psychopaths in many ways, but especially in the way that psychopaths wants to have a game, right, that they can be like bragging about. Snake Eye doesn't care about it that much, but also more so that I mentioned earlier, the snake people have very low self-esteem usually, right? They have low self-value. Psychopaths, opposite wise, have very high self-value, probably too high, right? Like high, overconfident people. And then, but otherwise they're very similar because they're both manipulative and so on. So they're both very like treaders, right? And neither of them tend to be in a lower tier job, right? Because neither of them want to have that. They want to be in middle management or higher, right? But yeah, so they're kind of different. But it's interesting. That's why I like my job too, right? Because analyzing this kind of behavior interesting because I mean, like I said, you can see a lot of similarity between A and B here. They're very very similar in like 5 traits, but in 5 other traits they're actually opposite of each other, right? So you can definitely make like, this very complicated mind map of how the stuff works and so on, right? But it's very important to kind of also be able, right? When you are trying stuff, be able to distinguish between these different traits, right, and understand who is doing who and so on, right? And we can obviously break this video down even further and talk about more stuff, but that kind of points ahead that I written down, I think, unless I forgot something. You also have the classic, like, what's it called? Masked suppression techniques. Oh yeah, the last thing I guess we have that is still relevant for video game industry, but maybe not a disorder, but just annoyance, is of course introverts. Let's talk about that. Sorry, I forgot about those people. They just have solid value. So last to that, introverts. Right? So introverts are of course kind of similar to autistic people or whatever, right? But a little different. Very very common trait, of course, in the game industry and us in general is the extreme introvert. And I mean, like my current job, most people there are introverts. More than half, I mean, absolutely. Now, how many are like extreme introverts? Maybe like 10% or so, 5%. That's still a high number, right? So it means you have several highly extremely introvert people. And then a bunch of other also introvert people that are less, but still. And this can definitely cause some different issues. So I'll give you a short story, but oh, that was so stupid. So I came to the office, and I worked with 2 introverts, okay? More than 2, but obviously then 2 in the same office. Oh god. Sorry. Jesus Christ. I'm ruining the story now. Anyway, so I was out way too long on New Year's Eve, yeah. Sorry about that. Anyway, so I go to my office, right? And in my office sits 2 introverts that I share office with. And they are, not talking, of course, to each other. They have one PC each, one end of the corner. I sit between them, and they whatever. And then when I come in, I read my message a bit, and then I ask the guy to write to me, because I see that he is booked to enter this building. And I'm like, what are you doing here for? In the schedule here, you're supposed to be in building B, I see now at 7 o'clock. And he's just like, no, I can't get in there, right? And I'm like, oh, but you can't get in there? But you've been here for like, an hour now and do nothing? Then he's like, yeah, but I don't have the keys to enter that building. And I'm like, oh, okay, who has those keys to enter those building? And then I, go and look at the schedule and I search a bit. And then I'm like, okay, so people that have the key to this building today are this guy sitting over there. And that's his name. Hey, you guy, you Eric over there. He's like, yeah, bro, do you have the key to building C? Yeah, of course, I have this whole week. And I was like, why haven't you said anything for? oh, you never asked. That's an angry. I'm like, so this guy here sat for an hour next to you, trying to find someone to let him in, and you didn't say anything. And he's just like, no, but you know. So that those kind of people, right? So the first guy also is wrong, right? He never asked, right? In a sense, the first guy is wrong too. He should have asked Eric. Let's call him Eric now. His name's something else, but he knows who he is. He should have asked Eric, in this case, of course, if he had a key, or if he knows about the key, right? She didn't, because he was too introverted, right, to ask for help, of course. But the other guy also should have noticed that he needs help, right? And especially when he hears us talking about it in the room with him, didn't say anything, right? So they're both terrible people, no, but I mean, they're both issues, right, of introverty. So how do we deal with that, though? Well, the way I deal with introvert people, like in this case, this company, is that I try to kind of befriend them and have some kind of icebreaker, right? So the way I usually do it, it's very comedian-like in that sense, with them. I tend to find what they like, right? Oh, this guy likes this thing, okay. And then this guy likes anime. This guy likes waifus. No, but this guy likes, I don't know, Scottish pop or something. No, but like, you find something they enjoy, right? And then I try to kind of usually open up some discussion with that, because they're still like IT gamer nerds. They will be like, oh my god, you also like anime, you know what I mean? So that's kind of how I lived my whole life, and this it works. They will always have something they're nerding for, right? So like my coworker, this guy, he likes anime, so I can always start say, have you seen the new anime yesterday? Oh yeah, One Piece was awesome, yeah. Oh, by the way, didn't you have a meeting in this, should you enter, building C? Oh, that's right, yeah, I can't get in, But if I just asked him, why haven't you entered building C? He's like, oh, see, I mean, then it's kind of like, oh, well, I mean, it's like, key? Oh, key, I can't find, Then it gets like that, right? But if I ask him and say, have you seen the new anime? Did you see Bleach yesterday? Oh, I love Bleach, I love my Bleach. And then I'm like, oh yeah, have you also seen, why are you in the wrong room for? Oh yeah, I can't find the key, right? It's like, honestly, that's the way I deal with these introvert guys. I know they're one hobby, or they're 1, 2, 3 hobbies, and I always start with that, and then they will just open up. You need an icebreaker to break through their ceiling, right? So they will start talking to you. It's a way different thing. But honestly, what I learned over the years, though, is that dealing with these extreme introvert people is that the more you befriend them, which maybe sounds automatic, or obvious, I mean, but it's like, the more you befriend them, the more automatically they will actually talk to you, right? When you have reached some kind of trust level, I guess, something. But it is special, definitely. And it is also yet another thing you have to really learn in the game industry. You have to really learn how to deal with all these weird people, right? With all the different issues they have. So you have this guy, you have the Wokies, you have these things. But you can also see, right, how the Wokies, again, by the woke stuff, but how they can control these people, right? Because they almost barely never say anything, right? Yeah, they never speak up, right? So easy to control, because you don't actually control them, but they just not say anything. They just exist in the system, right? So very much like that. Another way you can deal with them, the more practical reason, is that you always ask them. I see my boss do that a lot with these guys. I like that. My current boss, he kind of like, when the meeting is about to end, he always asks the guys that haven't said much, that everyone knows are introverts, right? He always asks them, like, okay, Eric and you there, Fabio, what do you guys think? He always like forces the word. So he have a meeting of 10 people, right? And let's say that 8 of us are speaking, back and forth all the time, right? And then these 2 guys are introvert, they don't say anything. And then when like 5 minutes left, he just like gives these 2 guys the word. Okay, Fabio, tell me what you think about everything we said for the last 3 minutes. And then he's like, okay, and then you, Eric, and then he kind of forces them to actually engage with it. I like that, actually. Yeah, he both gives them some talking space, but also makes them to actually be forced to be involved. And they also get more and more used to it, to actually have to have an opinion, right? So I think that's good, actually, because you should never allow anyone to not have an opinion, even if they don't want an opinion, honestly. Because you don't want to have these people just, hiding under the radar right now. And it's both going to motivate them more, hopefully, as well. But you have to learn people to speak up, right? For example, I have one coworker, which I think does a pretty good job as an introvert, so to speak. He says very little, but he's kind of like my boss does now, but automatically. So he's kind of like, doesn't say much during the meetings, but when the meeting is about to get over, again, similar, right? He's like, okay, now I want to say my piece. And then he kind of says everything he he feels about what's happening during the meeting. I agree with you on that point, and on that point, you're wrong, and that thing was right, and that's a good idea. He kind of gives like a summary what he thinks about everyone. It's kind of feels half weird, but it's actually quite effective. He kind of gives out everything, but he only has to speak once per meeting. But it's effective actually. For a person like him then, doesn't speak much. It's also a way to kind of get the introvert him out of him and speak stuff. So it's somewhat interesting solution, I think. But anyway, guys, that's the video how to deal and spot mental insanities in the game industry. And of course, everything I said here is 100% true in every regard to. No, but I mean, like I said earlier, right, obviously, like, if you, especially the part of like a juvenile narcissism, that's an obvious thing to tell on in any industry, right? I can look at these things and so on. So in that sense, maybe it shouldn't necessarily be game industry to be called. But I don't know, I still feel it's like connected to the whole insanity of the game industry, right? The reason I keep saying that this is mostly game industry is because in order, how to say it, right? In night industry and the audio industry, even night industry, all of these people can't exist at the same time. That's what I said earlier too, is that what is so fascinating but also scary, right, in a game company is you can have the Vokis, right, but you can also have the far right people at the same time. Because the head of the company is like, everyone is different and misfits and, unique. So, yeah, this was what I put out here, right, that you get this really crazy, world, right, at the game companies. Because, yes, you actually have the both left and far right at the same time, and also the psychopaths, sociopaths, and the hysteric people disorder, and you get the intro people, and you get the mito people, and you get them all at the same time, right? And it's a fascinating, crazy zoo in a way, right? Because it's like, my God, and they interact with each other in a weird sense too, right? But I also, that's why I want to say a little bit that it's now then, as a summary to with last video, right? Because in last video I explained that how, you take these people, right, and they're like 35-year-olds, but they actually act like they're 5, right? Because of the lack of social skills and so on. And you mash them together, and it gets super annoying and weird and so on, right? But then also put on the sprinkle now that they are like that, but one of them is like an incel, and the other one is like a freaking, far left woke, right? And you could buy that or something. So it's even worse, right? That's a little bit I said that too, because it isn't actually the same in all the industries. I don't think so. In my experience, the IT industry isn't like this, because you can't have these people in this like pandemonium of insanity. You can't have these people that are so crazy altogether and like put them all in there. And also, I guess the first bit of the video I explained, extreme Swedish wokeness, right? In a nutshell. Yeah. That obviously specifically evoked there. But all that is true. I worked at that company for about 2 years, a little more. And they had those things, which is like when it was Christmas. So in Sweden, like I said, right, we have julbord. I also did julbord last week, 2 weeks ago. It's whatever, but yeah. Well, actually, I was like 3 julbord last week, but I was at the company julbord 2 weeks ago. So in Sweden, you always have what's called julbord, right? Julebord. And yeah, they had julebord, and it was like, it has to be, only vegan, no actual meat and so on. Which of course is like the opposite of julebord is like meatballs and sausage, right? And salmon. Yeah, julebord is like 98% meat or something normally, like potatoes. Yeah, and they're like, no, it's vegan julebord. Yeah, it's crazy. And also one thing I remember so well too is that on our first julebord, with this company then, right? The julbord was in one room, so you ate food together at the location. And then you moved into this big, like, theater area. Same company then, right? Same like, restaurant kind of thing. And then you have this, like, quiz competition, basically, in groups then, between different companies. So we were there actually with one of the Swedish biggest newspapers, Expressen, were eating there as well, from their journalist. And also some other, like IT companies. And we had to name our team then, So it was like, I don't know, 10 people per team, and the theater people did this different stuff. We had to, I don't know, how to explain it, but they basically perform an act from a movie and oh, it's this movie and references this game or this historical event or whatever. Right? But anyway, my point is that as soon as we has to, not in my team then, but in the other teams, they had, been created between the people, right? So in my team, we didn't have any managers, right? We didn't have any owners, of course. But the other teams, I kid you not, the other teams were called like, Free Palestine and stuff like that, yeah. Not at the time then, but you get my point. Like, this was like 10 years ago, but you get my point. It was like whatever current, it's like whatever, it's like the Facebook meme, Like whatever is the recent current event online, the people are talking about on Reddit, on YouTube and so on. Free that, So it was like, I don't know. What's called them again? I honestly don't remember what it was that current winter. But I get my point. Like, whatever it was just like, oh, suddenly it's like a tsunami hit Haiti. So it's like, free Haitis or something. it was like that. The one team name was like that, of course. And the other team name was like, I don't know, Black Lives Matter or something, like literally, like they were like BLM or something, like, but the more older version of that, the sweet version of that. So it was kind of hilarious. So it was like all the teams from our company, except mine, was all named like, like activist slogans, right? And my team then, because I, of course, ended up with the most, normies people, right? They weren't woke. Our name was like Hydra or something. We were like Jim Simmons in the Apprentice of Trump. We were like, let's call that the Hydra or, Tiamat or something, yeah. Let's name ourselves Leviathan or something, yeah. We were like, we're gamers. Our team name is going to be Behemoth or something, you know what I mean? We had like, I think the name was Hydra, yeah, like we were the Hydra. And then Hail Hydra, yeah. Like our team name was like that seriously. And that was our team name. No, I remember it perfectly, yes, of course. I think that I openly said, okay, let's take a cool name like Behemoth or Hydra. And then the lead programmer, love this guy, we see besties, we see talk, every week, of course, because I make real frantic life, He was not woke then, right? He was like, we should do like the Marvel thing and say, Hail Hydra. I was like, yeah. We have to do it. Because obviously we expect them to have all their woke names. So you're like, oh, that's going to piss them off, yeah. Yes, let's do the evil guy from Marvel, yeah. That's what our name, of course. Yeah, of course it was. Now I remember it, yeah. We had a very non-okay name, yeah. And the rest of the guys were like, yeah, free whatever current countries. So it really was a lot of stuff like that. And this Vogue company. Another story I remember, I want to derail too much here, but one more story, hope you guys will be with there. So I have many stories, guys. Man, this company, and I said it for many years, this company deserves its own, views like 20 videos about this company. But the thing is that there's a lot of laws in Sweden, but so you can't say the names and so on, because in Sweden you can't actually, it's illegal in Sweden to like, what's it called now again in English? Förtal in Swedish. But in Swedish it's weird. In Swedish you're not allowed to like insult people by name and so, even if it's true. It's super strange. But whatever. It depends on what you say then. But but I remember another time that was really funny. So this is oh god. Just to explain how insanely woke these people are, right? So I had one guy that I worked with. He's also far left friendly. He's very left leaning, honestly. He's not as woke as these extremist FE guys, but he's a pretty woke guy, right? He was the artist. He was the artist, yeah. For his company, he started dating a girl, okay, like 2-3 weeks ago before the day, and then they broke up. They broke up, whatever, right? It wasn't fate or whatever. It doesn't matter. He broke up with her, and then he's eating some food he's brought with him at the lunch table, right? And I'm sitting there drinking water or whatever, and one of the CTO is on table too, CTO. And CTO was this crazy, vegan Altiva guy basically, right? So this guy, they just lost his girlfriend like the night before, and he's very sad. They're almost crying, like, oh, I'll miss her and so on, right? And then he, like he's like sad, right? He's sitting there, and then I don't know how to explain it, but this is how crazy these vloggers are. And I keep saying it, you guys can't fathom how insane these people are. Because I basically had a life of working with, you know, Triggerly Puff and memes, Simon Girl every day, right? Because when this guy is like, oh, you know, I don't know, it wasn't meant to be and I miss her. He sits down, says that, kind of, he's already crying a bit. This guy is very meek and very left, right? And then the CTO guy, which is, you know, the vegan guy, the middle vegan guy, immediately is like, you deserve to be broken up. Huh? So screaming at him, because you're an effing, you're not a vegan, F you, that's what you deserve. He's like, but I don't even eat meat, I'm a vegetarian, but you eat cheese, or something. So he's screaming at him like, you eat cheese though, you're not a real vegan, you know, but have milk from the cows, or like you are working for the evil establishment. So seriously, this CTO guy is like screaming at him for like 10 minutes now, how he just effed up he is, that he deserves to be left alone his whole life, right? Because, you know, this guy isn't a true vegan, he's only a vegetarian, think about that too. He doesn't even eat meat, right? So he screams at him for like literally over 10 minutes. And first I was like, should I stop him? So I was moving up to him like, F you kind of thing. But then I was like, you know what, no, because this guy is screaming at is also a stupid lefty, honestly. And I'm also left, right? But I mean, he's got stupid left, you know? I'm smart left. No, but all jokes aside, right? The guy is screaming at, I don't even like him, right? Because he's also woke, to speak. He's just like, this guy is extremely absurdly woke, or whatever that, PC, it's called back then. He's just the most PC. And the guy is screaming at is just less PC, right? Typical left eating his own, right? So first I was like, I should probably stop the thing because it looks insane. But then I was like, actually, you know what? No, he deserves this thing, because this is what happens, right? If you're teaming up with insane people, and they're gonna eat you eventually. They're gonna cannibalize you, right? Because they're always fighting, always the cause, right? So no, this will happen. Maybe he's gonna change his mind now about being a vegan. I don't know. I'm just gonna sit here and enjoy the show, right? Honestly, I was like, you know what? No. Normally I would say like, get away from me. Normally I would throw that critic out, right? But now I was like, no, you know what? No, they can fight each other. They're on the same team normally, so let's see what happens here. But these kind of things happen at a regular basis, right? Where they will scream and yell at each other and fight over this stuff, right? So I've seen this like left eating itself game studio, you know, in real time, right? You know, all the time. And I just keep saying that studio went bankrupt because, yeah, they couldn't make any money eventually, and so all this dumb decision making they had. But yeah, stuff like that too is general, of course, terrible company to be. And the reason I bring it up too, right, is because that's also one of those things when it comes to maneuvering the wokeness, right? It's just like, I keep saying it when it comes to Concord, right? But as soon as I read about that professor at Concord, I just imagined that, this is exactly like working in this company in Sweden, where people are constantly fighting over the dumbest things. Oh, you eat cheese? You're not a true vegan. Go and die, you know. Oh my god, you're a terrible ally, you know, this thing and that thing, right? Like, how much work do you think that artist guy got done that day? Nothing, right, you know? He was already sad his girlfriend dropped him, right? And now he's even more sad because his boss is screaming at him that he deserves to be alone because he likes cheese, right? It's so absurd. This is a true story. It's so insanely absurd. You think this game artist is gonna make good art? He's just gonna do nothing, right? So he can get paid, but he's gonna do nothing. So it's like, you can't work in an environment, right? So I keep going back to that thing. You have to understand how insane it is. You have to obviously maneuver that, right? When that guy comes screaming at me, I'm just like, you're a goddamn stupid guy. Say one word and I sue you. He's like, okay, yeah, go ahead. You know? I'm just like, no. I'm just like, immediately like, nope. We both know this will end and you losing. You know what I mean? But he never did to me. And it's funny too. This guy would never ever attack me, right? He would attack everyone else. But he knew that I would actually stand my ground 100%, right? And an important thing is to know, right? When he has tried screaming at me a few times, right? Again, I will vote guys, right? I will overvoke them, right? If I see that he wants to scream at me, and he's gonna scream at me, right? He's a crazy vegan guy. He'll come in there and yell at me something dumb, right? What I do is that as soon as he starts, I start screaming more over him, you know. Honestly, yeah, at that time, you know, because I'm just gonna overwalk him. Are you coming at me? You goddamn racist! You know, I'm gonna be like, you hate Japanese people! Like I said earlier, I'm gonna do that to him immediately, right? And then he's gonna be like, shit, no, yes, you effing do! You know, I'm gonna be like even worse than him, right? I'm just gonna overwalk him, right? You know, I'm just gonna go even more crazy than he do. And then he's like, shit, you know, because they are very, very pathetic people in the end, right? They're almost always very, very insecure and very, very weak, right? Mentally and physically weak, especially mentally weak. So you can definitely overcome them like that as well, which I think is just enjoyable then. Because I used, if he comes in very angry, I get angry, right? I used to reflect the personality stronger back to them, right? And after I've done it a few times, he obviously is afraid of me and leaves me alone, you know what I mean? Or I just block him immediately. It's like, nope, close door, go away. You know what I mean? Or just ignore it completely, insist, right? Yeah, I just pretend it insist. But these other guys, they can't deal with that, right? And they actually take it to heart too. He's telling them, you should have a girlfriend. He takes it to heart too. It's scary, man. But anyway, that's a long video, guys. Hope you guys like it. Last one is probably a better video. I don't know. This one felt more a little bit stirring around a bit more. But I do feel my voice was bad. I'm sorry for that. I think I just got a cold, seriously, right? I was out New Year's Eve. I lost yesterday. Come home very late, right? A little bit. Actually snowing a little bit. Not when I left, but somewhere I was there. Standing outside it for a lot. I think my nose a little bit, yeah. So I think my mouth is a little dry and so on. Should have 10 more of those though. That's not the story though, seriously. One day, subscribe guys. Press the like button. That's not the story though, but Jesus Christ, man. That coworker that drank like 10 liters a day, but like 5, 6. It's a true story, man. I wish it wasn't true, honestly. That woman is morbidly obese and she drinks so much soda. And we usually joke with her, but also kind of seriously, like, how are you not dead yet? Yeah, we were like, my God, how did you survive this thing? And I would flat out, honestly, talk to her a few times. Because I was one of her managers, right? And I was like, you can't drink this much soda. Like, you're gonna die. Like, I mean, I don't care if you look how you look or if you obviously, like, I was like, you can't drink this much. Like, it's just super unhealthy. Drink water instead. But she was like, nah, I do this thing with my life. I was like, no, but like, I was like, yeah, we all understand that, but at some time your body won't be able to handle this thing. Like, she literally, like I said, she just on video one day, but she would literally bring like 6 liters of cola every day to work, and usually consume it all. So every day, but she got to the office right in the morning, she came with like a plastic bag right from. The grocery store, like Yrkeshögskola or something in Sweden, so it would be like Yrkeshögskola usually or Willys. And she would come with that grocery bag, and in the bag she would have like 6 or more, 1 liter cola bottles, or bigger ones, like 2 liter bottles, depending on what is selling. But she would come in with like 10 liters of Coca-Cola, seriously. And she would put it at her desk, and this is Sweden, right? So during the winter and the fall, especially the winter, her desk was close to the window. So she would have, like, she would open the window, and she would have, like, cola bottles standing, like, 6, 7 at the window, open window, outside the window. She could open the window and take a bag, cola bottle, and take a drink it. And she would do this thing all day. And she would literally sit at the computer coding and be like, just, like, seriously, she would, like, consume, like, at least 4 or 5 liters of her cola every day. But I saw her drinking, like, 6, 7 liters one day. Several days a week, almost like a whole week sometimes. And I genuinely was like, how is she not dead? It feels like she would be like poisoned by this thing, like water poison, like seriously, yeah. Now she was of course like so high body weight, but yeah, I was like, wow, I expect to almost die from this thing. And then she also, another trait she had, classic bad regulation for mental health, is that she would, she never once in her life cooked food either, right? So she would always 100%. I worked for her for a few years, and I have never seen her in like 2 years. I worked for about 2 years, and I've never seen her in a 2-year time frame ever bring food. Yes, every day she was bringing her cola to the work, right? But she would never bring food. She would, that's like, cooked from home. She would always buy food every lunch, stuff like that, which also is like weird. I mean, it makes sense if you're like rich or whatever. You're Bill Gates, right? Elon Musk, right? It doesn't make sense if you have like a really low junior game developer salary. Like, she had a terrible salary. I mean, I knew her salary, of course. Her salary was like absolute bottom, right? So I was like, it doesn't make any sense. But anyway, like I said, guys, subscribe to the like button. Please leave a comment below. What do you want to hear more of, right? These people. I can talk about all the stuff too, like what actually good in the industry, how they get a job and so on. So leave a comment below what kind of subject you would like to hear about, right? But obviously, like I put that, I have like 50, 60, 100 more stories of crazy events, right? So one video later, maybe next week, will definitely be like, here's my top 10 just crazy people I met in the industry, or crazy events or whatever, like Cola Girl, because she still is in my mind. And how is she alive? No, but I mean it genuinely, because if you drink like 6-7 liters of water in one day, you might get water poisoning, right? After 8 or 9 liters, you probably will die. Like your body can't handle enough liquid, because what happens is that your body, the blood cells in your body, the red blood cells, they will be too elasticated, they'll be too thinned out by the liquid, so you can't transport oxygen in your body. That eventually will kill you because you have too much liquid in your body. That's how water poisoning works. And this woman was drinking so much Coca-Cola that I seriously was like, how is she not getting water poisoning by it? I mean, certainly cola isn't water, but it's almost water, right? It's very much the same thing. It's water with sugar in it, yeah. So like, how is she not getting water poisoning by this? And certainly she was maybe bigger than the average female, of course, size-wise and so on. And maybe then she can take up more, liquid in her body. But I was like, yeah, she's a strange person. It was very weird. I mean, genuinely still. After I turn off the video now, I am gonna Google now and see if I can find out how much she can drink in one day, because she was drinking so much every day. It was like crazy. It was just weird. And then she would, again, other stuff too. Eat candy, so on, of course. Yeah, Jesus Christ. But anyway, see you guys and have a great day. Try to turn off the breaking the camera now. So yeah, seriously, have a great day.